and loaded. Truth on my blade, every line's exploded. You swing your words, I counter with precision. Battle of reason, this is my mission. Raise your fist, let them know. No. Raise your voice, let it blow. Woo! We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreat. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo! We clash our swords of reason. Woo! We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreat. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo! We clash our swords of reason.
All right, let's fucking go. Welcome everybody to Swords of Reason right here on the Speakeasy show. I'm obviously your host, and this is where logic meets passion every Tuesday night, anytime after 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're new here, the format's simple but intense, okay? Each debater gets 10 minutes for opening statements, followed by 5-minute uninterrupted rebuttals. Then we open the floor for a full hour of raw, unfiltered debate, okay, before wrapping it up with a 5-minute closing statement from each side. After that, we'll spend 30 minutes answering your questions from the chat. Super chats get top priority. And once the formal debate is done, we open the doors to the community for our chaos and chill, all right, where anyone can hop up and to challenge or question the debaters. This is optional for the debaters, obviously. All right, today's debate prompt is, should all currently illegal drugs be legalized and regulated? All right, let's meet today's debaters. All right, we got on the affirmative side, we have Teriak, an aspiring professional memester, debater, and does shows here on YouTube about philosophy and social issues. And for the negative, we got JS Urban Adventures, an aspiring dino pyramid professional that does shows on YouTube showcasing his hobbies, interests, political, and philosophical views. Debaters, you know the rules. Let's keep it sharp, smart, and entertaining. The clock is ticking. We got 10 minutes for each of your opening statements. We're going to start with Teriak. So go ahead whenever you're ready. I will start up the timer.
Yeah. So again, thank you for putting on the debate, and thanks for Easy, and thanks for showing up, JS. This is going to be hopefully a beautiful debate. My name is Teriak. As Easy was saying, I'm an aspiring professional memester. Also go by Loki the Leprechaun. But yeah, today we're talking about the drugs, like a very kind of like contentious topic, particularly in the conservative community. But I want to remind everybody in chat, today's debate is not about addiction. It's not about safety. It's about your choice as an individual. Okay? That's fundamentally what it comes down to. Because what I anticipate JS is going to throw me is like, oh, fentanyl. What about fentanyl on our borders? Did you know, chat, that fentanyl is given in every single hospital? It's used as a replacement to morphine. You know what I mean? And like, this is a key thing to understand when you're talking about like drugs on the streets. It's like, if all the drugs on the street, the current drugs on the streets were regulated, and it was guaranteed that whenever you were buying a drug, you were getting exactly what you paid for. All these overdoses and deaths upon that, it's like that would reduce that in and of itself. But even as an individual, why am I not allowed to get a painkiller? Why can't I show up to the pharmacy and get pain? I can get like the likes of ibuprofen and all this kind of stuff, but when it comes to the serious stuff, why am I not able to do it? That's the key thing here. There's other things in terms of the benefits that some of these illicit drugs, as we call them, can benefit. There was a famous mathematician called Paul Erdos, right? He contributed like, I think, 1,500 papers, you know what I mean, to the mathematic community. And he was taking amphetamine. After his mother died, he basically started taking amphetamine, and he noticed that this basically vastly boosted his production. And the amount of papers he was able to get, the amount of like work that he was actually able to contribute to mathematics. Now, he was sick before this, but like one of his friends was worried about him, says, oh, bro, like I think you're addicted and all this stuff. So he offered him $500 to stay off amphetamines for a month, which he done. No problem. He was able to do that. But here was the statement to his friend. Before, when I looked at the blank piece of paper, my mind was filled with ideas. You set mathematics back a month. So this dude, like a famous mathematician, is even saying, because you had this like paranoia that I was addicted, you basically set mathematics back a month. So the same reasons, like, why can't we take these drugs if they genuinely benefit us. And the interesting thing about amphetamines is any kid that has ADHD is going to be on amphetamines. So in terms of this danger aspect or in terms of this addiction aspect, these are not part of the debate. JS needs to defend why we should keep these drugs legal, despite the fact that there's benefits. And even with psychedelics, when we look at like PTSD or like veterans, all this stuff, there's been tremendous research into actually using psychedelics like psilocybin from mushrooms, for example, to use that to essentially get the mind back on track. Because when you're looking at something like PTSD, the brain can only handle certain pieces of information. So if you've just seen your best friend get blown up right in front of you, that's going to break your mind. But with these psychedelics, we're able to reset the mind and put it back on a better track, kind of thing. So again, in terms of like the actual benefits, these are benefits you won't hear about this, but it'll still be, we have to make sure that we ban these for either for the safety of the individual, which I'd kind of point out that every single supermarket has bleach in it, and if you drink bleach, you'll die. So we seem to have bleach legal, but when it comes to these like drugs that could potentially actually be a benefit to the common person, we all of a sudden seem to have an issue with it. To me, it doesn't make any sense. And again, like I said, I just want to stress again this whole aspect of like addiction is a different issue. Because like JS is probably going to point out like all these slums and it's all people like strung out in drugs. If it wasn't drugs, they'd be sniffing glue. If it wasn't glue, they'd be sniffing deodorant things like aerosols and stuff like that as well. They will, like, from the aspect of like looking at the problem, you need to solve addiction, not just ban all the drugs. It's like a lazy try to quick fix it in terms of that. And like I said, in terms of the back and forth, hopefully it's a good back and forth. But fundamentally, like I said, when you break down the question, my main question to JS would be, why, as a responsible drug user, am I not allowed to decide what goes in and out of my body? There is no reason, and that to me is the fundamental question behind this debate. And I concede the rest of my time.
All right, thank you, Teriak. And we'll hand it over here to JS. And whenever you start, I'll start up the timer.
All right, I'm ready. All right, guys, what's up? My name's JS. As Easy said, I do streams, I do politics, philosophy, theology, all sorts of good stuff. This should be a fun one tonight. It's something that is kind of close to my heart. I know a little bit about this, so I guess you could say I'm an expert. So let's get into it. For tonight's debate, my position will be to stand against the legalization and regulation of every currently illegal drug, including illicit substances such as PCP, GHB, DMT, fentanyl, carfentanil, isotonitazine or ISO, crocodile, and rohypnol. Although I am a proponent of even stricter prohibition and harsher criminal penalties for substance use than we presently have in America, I will not be arguing that today. I do not have to argue for criminalizing every drug. I simply have to demonstrate that at least one should remain illegal. My definition of drug is any medicine or substance which physiologically affects the user when ingested, often with addictive and harmful properties. My arguments will primarily relate to pragmatic policy making and policy logistics, since this is a policy debate more so than a philosophical or moral debate. But I will also lay out an ethical argument which grounds the practical arguments in doing what is right as a society. That said, I'll begin with my ethical or moral position. I believe it is objectively unethical or immoral as a civilization to enable the least among us to engage in self-harm or harm to others, and even more unethical for a government to profit off of those being harmed. By the least among us, I mean the spiritually, physically, and mentally weakest people in our society, those who are damaged or broken to the point of their lives becoming unmanageable. These people are highly susceptible to the appeal of escapism that comes with many of the most dangerous drugs. They start lightly using to deal with stress, depression, anxiety, or a litany of other reasons. And before long, they're physically and mentally dependent on a substance. These people knowingly or unknowingly begin slowly killing themselves, chasing the ultimate escape. You may think they should just will themselves out of it, that they're just losers who don't want to stop, but this is not the case. These people have no free will. They are slaves to their next fix, and nothing or nobody else matters. It is inhumane to enable this person to easier access, procure, and ingest the poison that will eventually destroy them, even if it comes with an increased GDP. These issues aren't only harmful to the addicts either, but we should also not enable them to engage in any activity that will inevitably cause problems to everyone around them. This brings me to my second argument against drug legalization, a pragmatic appeal to the devastating societal harm caused by drugs, a harm that would dramatically amplify with legalization. After decriminalizing hard drugs, Oregon saw overdoses double and deaths from synthetic opioids jump 533%. All this when they haven't even heard of ISO, which is 10 times more potent than fentanyl, let alone carfentanil, which is 100 times as potent as fentanyl. After recriminalization and closing down the open border led to less access to smuggled drugs, overdose rates were down 22% from 2023 to 2024. Reducing access and increasing punishments for dangerous drugs reduces overdose deaths. As I mentioned a moment ago, the harm from drug users is not only harm to themselves, by no means. The harm caused by drugs affects family, friends, neighbors, everyone who comes in contact with the user. Legalizing drugs would lead to an increase in crimes of consumption, such as theft, burglary, grand theft auto, breaking and entering, DUIs, basically any crime committed by an addict seeking to fund their habit or while intoxicated. Whether it's sold by a hondo on the block or a lady doctor in a lab coat, a junkie will rob his own mother to get his next fix, and this behavior should not be encouraged and made more convenient. The largest societal detriment would be harm to children. More access and availability to younger children means more accidental deaths from kids finding mom's cleaning meth in the cabinet, kids experimenting at a party and driving afterwards, and young adults becoming lifelong addicts. Legalizing drugs would also lead to more prenatal exposure, meaning more children being born addicted to what should be an illegal substance, but instead was made available to a consenting adult mother-to-be. Young people on drugs have lower inhibitions and are more likely to engage in dangerous activities. In other words, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Sorry, I don't have a frying pan. It's supposed to sizzle when I put it in, but I don't have a frying pan. And eggs are expensive, so this is your brain. Your brain turns to shit when you're on drugs. There you go. All right. My last argument is also pragmatic, relating to the logistics of drug legalization. Legalization entails a federal or state regulatory structure. New policy and law would need to be written for every previously illicit drug. Policing would change radically. Manufacturing and distribution infrastructure would need to be built and maintained under constant close scrutiny from the government. These changes would be insanely time-consuming and expensive. Legalization and regulation leads to setting up safe injection sites, clean needle and clean drug exchanges, more shelters and more addiction services, and addict-friendly housing. Building these facilities, building these facilities leads to calls for rezoning and serious city replanning, because you don't want a meth injection site next to a school or a church, and citizens don't want these use sites near their neighborhoods. These shelters, clinics, injection sites, and services are often built near each other, leading to an influx in drug-seeking people to move to the area. This leads to a destruction of surrounding property values, and again, an increase in crime of consumption. Safe streets become cesspools, and local businesses suffer if they don't just close down. To conclude my opening, I want to comment on the prompt of the debate before reiterating my main arguments against drugs being completely legalized. The word regulated in the topic is irrelevant, and it's only useful to my opponent as a tool to misdirect the conversation. All drug policy, whether criminalization, legalization, or decriminalization, come with regulation. The question is whether we legalize all drugs while regulating legal use, or criminalize some drugs, legalize others, and decriminalize others while still regulating their legal use. Our focus should not be on freedom to use drugs, but instead freedom to never have to deal with the harms of drug use. Legalization leads to marketing and advertising to build an increased customer base. Increases in customers leads to increase in potency and more destabilization in society to drive profit. Drugs demoralize and dumb down the masses, making them easier to mentally manipulate and deceive. Legalization leads to increased exposure to drugs, and the number one common factor in drug addiction is exposure to said illicit drugs. Prohibition is not bad. We prohibit selling raw milk and hunting bald eagles. We prohibit the speed you can drive on roads. So why would we not prohibit certain deadly substances from being ingested? The societal harm from legalized drugs would be catastrophic. The realistic implementation of these policies would be nearly impossible logistically, and it is objectively unethical to allow such damaging behavior to go unpunished. Those are my three main points. I always like to include a Bible verse and a quote in all of my debate openings. So even though this has nothing to do with my arguments, I will recite 1 Peter 5:8. Be alert and of sober mind, because the devil prowls like a roaming lion seeking for someone to devour. The government should not be that lion, but should aid the people in resisting it. As for a quote, my arguments can be summed up in one 4-word line made famous by the great Mr. Mackey. Drugs are just bad, okay? And that's it.
All right, base, both coming in strong. Love this shit. Reminder to everybody in the chat. First off, hit the like, sub if you're not subbed. Both debaters are in the description tagged, so go to the description, go to both debaters, hit a like, go send them super chats. I'm sure they're both streaming right now as well too. So go show love as well on both their channels. Okay. So now what we're doing here is we have a 5-minute uninterrupted rebuttal for each of them. Okay. So we just ended off there with JS. So we'll go back to Teriak. And I noticed I was using my timer that counts up, but I was searching for you guys just so to make it a little cooler for you guys. So I got you a countdown timer for the 5-minute one. All right. But yeah. So we'll start with Teriak here. You got 5 minutes for an uninterrupted rebuttal. Whenever you want to start, I'll start it up.
Yeah, so again, like I said, chat, I basically predicted the arguments he's going to make. It's for your safety or it's for addiction. Those are the main two arguments that he's putting forward. And like I said, if he's so concerned about people ingesting harmful material, then we have to ban bleach. Well, I don't think JS will go that far. You know what I mean? And like in terms of the whole dynamic that he's putting forward, if we were to take the same logic, then JS would ban guns. Guns are dangerous. There's all this gun death, and if we were to get rid of guns or make guns illegal, then that would reduce the gun deaths, right? And this is what, like, I think JS's main problem is. He seems like he's against communism, but he seems also to be supportive of a lot of the methodologies that communists use. So again, in terms of the whole kind of argument that he's made, all he's trying to do is say, "Oh, you got to be safe. You got to put, like, we've got like bleach, for example. Like, what's stopping like any of these like drinking bleach? You know what I mean? And how is he going to enforce that? You know what I mean? Also, there's many other like common household appliances that get you quote unquote high. And the reason why people go to that depth is because they can't get what they actually want. It's like the whole there's a whole forget like they were called head shops over here. I don't know if America had the same thing. But essentially, like there were these stores that were like would sell like bath salts, but the bath salts were like synthetic forms of like either cocaine or some other drug. You know what I mean? So when you try to outlaw something, just as we've seen in Prohibition, you try to outlaw alcohol. The alcohol, not only like will people try to find other substances that aren't banned to get the similar effect. What happens with prohibition is you make more money the stronger the alcohol is. So it just is incentivized to make the drug even more potent because then you're getting more bang for your buck, especially with transportation, all this kind of stuff. So in terms of the like, it makes things safer. It actually makes things more dangerous for the homeless or the drug users and all this stuff. Because from their point of view, even from this is why I brought up the PTSD, is that like if someone is wanting to take a substance because they're in pain or to try and like no longer be in reality, it's like that is a mental illness, and you have to be able to treat that. And how would you treat typical cases? You treat them with drugs. You know what I mean? So in terms of like the regulation aspect to it as well, in my system I'm proposing Oh, I accidentally muted myself. In my system, like what I'm proposing is that you have like basically a medical card. So the only way you're able to get this and like what you're buying is actually what it says on the tin, and not like I'm buying off this guy and I think it's this substance, but it might have other stuff mixed into it just so it appears more potent. And again, even when we have this regulation, we can then offer products that aren't as potent. So again, to go back to prohibition, when they reintroduced alcohol, that's when beer and wine, all this kind of stuff came back into it as well. So in terms of like when you have regulations and when you have an industry that's transparent and open, you know exactly what you're getting, and the product improves itself as well. In terms of safety guidelines, all the stuff that's wrapped into the regulations as well. So like JS doesn't really have an argument here. But with that, I can see the rest of my time.
All right. And with that, we'll bring it back over to JS for your uninterrupted rebuttal. And whenever you want to start, I'm ready to start it up.
I'm ready. All right. So all of Teriak's arguments break down to my freedoms. I need my freedoms. You're taking my choice to do stuff. We take people's choice all the time. Are you a pro-choicer? My body, my choice. I need my drugs. What am I going to do without them? We take people's freedoms all the time. We have speed limits on the roads. We have all sorts of laws that restrict your freedoms. Your freedoms are made up. You said fentanyl is illegal, or wait, fentanyl is illegal. Prescribed drugs are still illegal. You brought up your medical card thing, your idea of a medical card. We already have that. It's called a prescription. A prescription is regulating something that's illegal without the regulation. So Oxycontin, if I had a bottle of Oxycontin on me, that would be illegal. But if I have the prescription, that's a regulation that allows me to use it in certain circumstances. It's better to have the drugs be illegal and then regulate the legal instances with somebody could use them. So overall, they'd be illegal, but there'd be these carve outs where you could use it if you have your card, like you said, or your prescription, which we already do that. And so you could still keep those drugs illegal and allow certain uses at some time. You were talking about being able to buy Tylenol or something or Advil over the counter. I hope you're not arguing that we should be able to buy fentanyl over the counter. We have our card, so we're going to walk into a Walmart with our card and we're going to be able to buy fentanyl over the counter. Like, that would be crazy. I don't know if that's your argument, so we'll talk more about that. Your whole story about some tweaker did some meth sometimes and he did math really fast isn't very compelling. Yeah, when you do meth, you get a lot of shit done. Yeah. But you also destroy your body, you destroy your mind, your teeth fall out, your skin gets destroyed, you age faster. And to say that meth is not addictive is crazy. I don't know what contest this is about. Some guy gave a guy a bet that he couldn't not do meth for a month, and then he did it for $500. Were they drug testing him? Like, this sounds okay. Maybe he didn't do meth for a month, but I just don't see how we could pump out we're gonna get a lot of work done if we're all high on meth. I don't know if you know many meth heads, but that's not gonna work out good for you. Let's see. And also, if you can't think without a performance enhancing drug, then you probably just suck at doing your job. If you need meth to be able to do math faster, then that's like a personal problem. You should get better at math. Einstein didn't need to smoke a bunch of meth all day. And I've heard of him, but I've never heard of the tweaker that you talked about. So let's see. Oh, you brought up psychedelics for depression and stuff like that. I was going to bring that up, and we'll talk about that in the opening. I don't know if you want to make that argument. Last night you were talking about the CIA and the mind control. Yeah, they'll use these psychedelics to mess with our heads. I know they're using mushrooms and ketamine for depression now, but I'll save that one for the open conversation because we're going to get into that one. Treatment over punishment, it doesn't work. You can find as many statistics that say that it does work as I can find that say that it doesn't work. Somebody who goes Many addicts will tell you that getting arrested and going to jail was the best thing that ever happened to them. Many addicts that go to a 30-day cushy rehab that they're forced to go to come out, and then they relapse and they die because they use the same amount when they get out that they had when they went in. The recidivism rates are hard to find on that to compare the jails versus the rehabs, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll get into that. Drugs are not the right to bear arms. You don't have a constitutional right to use drugs. You have a constitutional right to bear arms. You don't have a constitutional right to shoot heroin in the streets or wherever you want to do it. And about potency, you talked about the potency, and it's cleaner if you get it legally. Potency goes up when you legalize. Once it's legal,
10
manufacturers can drive the potency up and get more customers. That's how they get more money. They drive the potency up. So that's all. I think I touched on everything you said.
All right, perfect. Now, I just one more time remind the chat you can find both debaters in the description of the live. Okay, so go over there, make sure you sub to both. You can go over there. They're both live, so send them both super chats. Show love to both sides. Okay, showing up, coming in strong here right at the start. We're gonna move this over now to an hour of open floor. Okay, so they're both able to have a back and forth now. Just if it gets too crazy, I plan to do as little as possible here. If it gets too crazy talking over each other, I'll step in to make sure we rein that in. Or if you guys maybe go too off course, I'll rein it back in there too. But other than that, I'm gonna let you guys control how this goes. Good luck to you both and everyone in the chat. Again, I'm going to open up the Q&A for anyone who wants to ask questions. The last 30 minutes will be a Q&A, and super chatted questions get priority. Boys, the floor is open.
Yeah, so JS, like this whole thing about like we need to make sure or enforce that like we only have safe substances. So like in terms of bleach, how would you enforce that people don't drink bleach?
Oh yeah, I didn't bring up the bleach thing. Bleach is not a drug. Bleach is a cleaning chemical, and if you ingest it, it's a poison. So I thought about maybe bringing up ricin or rat poisoning.
Yeah,
those are poisons.
Said,
those aren't drugs.
Yeah, but you also said that drugs are poison. That these illicit drugs are poison that they're putting into the system.
I said,
and then I counted that by saying that you have all these benefits that you can get with these quote unquote illicit drugs. So in terms of like safety, if your main concern here is for like the safety of the individual, what are we going to do to stop someone from drinking bleach?
If people started drinking bleach to get high, like you'd be okay with it.
Because it's legal already.
Right, but it's a poison. It's not a drug. Nobody's gonna categorize bleach as a drug.
Yeah, okay. So like in terms of like knives, should we ban knives to reduce knife crime?
No, we have a right to defend ourselves. We have a right to go hunting.
So where in the Constitution does it say you have a right to knives?
You have a right to bear arms. Your arms could be knives.
Yeah, so like in terms of this dynamic,
knives have
in terms of your solution, the logic you would say is we need to ban all knives. We need to ban all guns. We need to ban all bleach.
Knives have multiple different purposes. Bleach has multiple different purposes. Knives aren't just made to kill people. Bleach isn't just made to be ingested and killed. Drugs are made to be ingested.
To be ingested, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have something that's not made to be ingested, but it's legal. But then we have something that is made to be ingested, and that is illegal.
Yeah. If you're gonna,
that makes no sense.
Ingest knives, and if somebody was, let's say, taking a knife and doing something to self-harm themselves or self-harm others, we would lock them up.
Yeah, but we wouldn't ban knives.
Yeah, but
right, exactly. So we shouldn't ban drugs.
No, because again, drugs are made to be ingested. Knives are not made to stab people or to hurt yourself with.
Yeah. And
the drug is specifically designed to be ingested and get you hooked.
The person using the drug, it's their intention that matters. So someone who has a knife and intends to stab someone else with it, that's something we should prevent, but we shouldn't ban knives. Same way with the drugs, someone's taking drugs to harm themselves, then we should prevent that. But it's the behavior that they're doing, not the actual substance.
And we shouldn't have speed limits.
Yeah, but they have the Autobahn in Germany. There is no speed limit.
See, I could flip this on you. You just
That,
want
that- no. You brought up the whole traffic thing. Let's get into it.
They
The
have- they
Autobahn,
have
there is no
one-
speed limit.
They have
There is
one
no speed
road-
limit on the Autobahn.
They have one road in one country in the world where there's no speed limit.
It's actually multiple countries. I'm pretty sure there's a road in China as well where it's the same
Okay,
thing.
whatever. We wouldn't make every drug not have a speed limit. That would.
What do you mean a drug have a speed limit?
Why do I have
That's
to
what
drive?
you do with regulations, as in you cannot sell a product that would literally kill someone if they were to ingest it.
Why do I have to drive 20 miles per hour in a school zone? See, so
Because
this is
that's the law.
this is the same thing.
I don't.
You're saying my freedoms. I didn't know you. I didn't expect you to just go with the basic my freedoms argument, but
No, what I'm pointing out is your logic. I predicted your arguments, which was addiction and safety, and now I've
Yes.
countered those.
yes, my argument is case by case. We ban certain illicit substances that are meant to get people addicted and get people high, and that cause harm to society. Bleach isn't one of those substances. There's not a
Bleach
not
cannot cause harm.
there's not an epidemic of people drinking bleach.
Yeah, there's not an epidemic of people being strung out on drugs.
Yes, there is. There's lots of them.
Where?
There's crack epidemic. There's the opioid epidemic. China had a opium. What do they call them? Opium house epidemic. There's lots of.
And yeah, and we've had a war on drugs, and there's still more, as much drugs as there ever was.
And the war on drugs has worked over time.
How has it worked?
Over time, addiction
It
rates
lost.
have gone
It lost the
down.
battle against alcohol when they tried to prohibit. It lost the battle against marijuana, and it
It didn't lose
keeps
the
losing
battle
battles.
against alcohol.
It did. It did lose the
No.
battle.
No, it affected all sorts of things.
They prohibited it, and then they realized this does not work.
No, they
it
prohibited
lost.
it. They prohibited it, and then they realized they could make money to pull themselves out of the Great Depression, so they let people have it again.
Yeah, and then in terms
were
of
more-
marijuana, okay,
there were more
marijuana. One second,
benefits.
marijuana. They prohibited, and now it's been legalized across America, Canada, basically all across the West. It's starting to get legalized.
Yeah, and now they're thinking about repealing that in the Netherlands, and we should repeal it in America too. We should get rid of that. Also, we just decriminalized.
But this, no, JS, this points towards the war on drugs is lost because they're taking these
no,
quote-unquote
you're right.
illicit
We legalized
substances. Yeah, exactly. So like this whole thing of like reefer madness, marijuana is so dangerous, it's going to cause you crazy, and then it's like you realize you actually see someone smoke a joint and they fall asleep. Like that's the great danger.
Okay, but it dumbs down the population. It
Not necessarily. Because when you talk about like amphetamine and stuff like that stuff doesn't dumb you down or doesn't like make you chill.
I
That
can
shit
give
like
you-
makes you want to do work.
I can give you marijuana. Even if I give you marijuana, I don't have to sit here and say that we
Yeah.
need to make alcohol and
No,
pot illegal.
yeah. The reason why
you
I'm
wanna
bringing up
legalize-
marijuana, the reason why I'm bringing up marijuana is because the state itself was trying to push the message that marijuana makes you crazy, and it turns out no, it doesn't.
Maybe it does.
They lied. So it's the same
What do you mean?
tactic that you're using right now, where it's like the fear of like your safety and addiction, all this kind of
Good.
shit, which are unrelated to the actual substance.
We're seeing a lot of kids who schizophrenic people, young people, when they use marijuana, they're more likely to get addicted. It hurts their brain development. So yeah.
So then why are we giving kids? Why we giving kids amphetamines then legally?
So other than using propaganda to discourage people from doing things that could potentially harm them, and we're going to have it legal, but how are we going to discourage people from doing it? Other than
Because the
using
same
propaganda?
argument, the same argument could be made against homosexuals, where it's like that's like a harmful behavior. But
Don't
like,
threaten me with a good time. You wanna ban that too?
What two consenting adults do in the privacy of their own home is at no odds to me.
That's fine. I know. It's
Yeah.
the freedoms, the
So if
freedoms,
someone-
the freedoms.
Yeah.
You want-
So if yeah, what's wrong with that? What's wrong
You
with
want
freedom?
the freedom to be degenerate. That's not.
I would rather
that's not what
have
America
dangerous.
was founded on.
I would rather have dangerous freedom than comfortable slavery.
Dangerous
safe
freedom than
slavery.
comfortable slavery.
Yeah.
Or we can find a middle ground. So let's say we legalize pot. We let people drink. How are you going to regulate the date rape drug? How are you going to regulate? Oh, and you brought up designer drugs, Flocka, Spice, 70H, which is gas station heroin. You know what we did to stop people from gnawing other people's faces off after they smoked bath salts? We made it illegal.
Sorry, I was changing my headphones. What was the last part?
We made those things illegal. We made spice illegal. We made bath salts illegal, and hopefully soon we'll make 7-OH illegal.
And if we already had cocaine readily available, regulate all stuff, these head shops or smoke shops never would have existed.
No, people are still going to figure out new ways to make new drugs to get high. That's always going to happen.
But when you have something like cocaine or MDMA, like there's no point in trying to make it competitive to that, because it's already that good that it's, even the fact that it's legal, it's still selling like hotcakes.
MDMA was, when it first came out, it wasn't illegal. It was a new drug that they used.
And we survived. Somehow we survived, JS.
No, they made it illegal, is what they did.
Yes.
That's
because
they
don't want people, because they don't want people being happy.
They don't want people being happy. They'd give it to a couple sitting on a couch, give them some ecstasy, leave the room, and you come back later, and all of a sudden all their relation problems are fixed, and they're like, oh, yeah, and they just got it on. And then
how's that a bad thing? How's that a bad thing, Jazz?
It becomes a bad thing when
it
becomes a bad thing when kids get a hold of it and they figure out we like fucking and going to raves too.
Oh my god, the kids!
And then they start flooding their brains and dying.
Yeah, and what happens when a kid drinks alcohol? Same thing. What happens when a kid smokes cigarettes? Same thing.
Yeah. So we make it illegal to drink before a certain age.
Yeah, that's part of regulation. Regulating it.
Right. I'm okay with regulation. Again, see, I told you. Here comes the regulation. We're both going to argue for regulation.
So you're okay so long as we have regulations to legalize all drugs, then.
Yes, but I would say things should be illegal, and you regulate the legal uses. You don't make it legal and then regulate what makes it illegal. That's backwards.
Like if I say, for example, like I release a product and I say only people like, let's say, over the age of 80 are allowed to use this product, that's regulation.
Yeah, that would be regulation.
Yes. So you'd be okay with legalizing all drugs, but then having regulations?
No, I'd make them illegal and then have regulations.
How do you regulate something?
There's certain things you're not going to have any regulations for. Or, for example, carfentanil. It's for elephants. It's fentanyl for elephants. It's 100 times stronger than fentanyl. A microscopic amount. A microscopic amount can kill somebody.
And why do dealers prefer that?
We would keep that totally illegal for human use.
Yeah. Why do dealers prefer a more potent product?
Huh?
In an illicit market, why do dealers prefer a more potent product?
Because customers prefer a more potent product.
No, the reason why the dealers specifically go for the high potency is because it's easier to travel with.
Yeah, well, that's one
reason. The less it takes for you to get high, the more I can transport.
Right.
And hide, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's regulated and you're giving the customer all these like a wide range of options of what they want, you can have fentanyl that's like 0.01%.
No, but it's driven. It's also driven by customer demand. So opiates, there's no tolerance peak. Your tolerance will keep going up and up and up and up. So eventually, an opiate addict isn't getting high off heroin anymore. So then he goes to fentanyl. Then he's not getting high off fentanyl anymore.
Yeah,
so he'll go to ISO, and then he'll go to carfentanil. And a junkie who uses $100 a day could do that. But anybody else that comes in contact with it dies. Police, like...
and the same thing for example, like obese people who keep eating themselves into early graves. We had this whole trend, the fat is fabulous or whatever, fat is beautiful trend. And it's literally people who are eating themselves into a grave. So we're going to ban food, or we're going to ban carbs.
Yeah, you could just keep doing whataboutisms and say, how come we don't ban this?
I'm trying to apply your logic. I'm trying to apply your logic to a relevant situation where your logic fails.
I'm telling you, it's logical to restrict and ban some things that are harmful and other things that have other uses that aren't harmful but could be used for harmful things, not ban those things. That's logical.
No, because again, sugar, like if you say the benefit of sugar or caffeine or nicotine or like these are all drugs, JS. You don't associate them with or you don't like them. It's debatable that caffeine is a drug. Is caffeine a drug?
Caffeine's a drug.
Yes. So sugar is a drug. Nicotine is a drug.
Sure.
Alcohol is a drug. Yes.
Sure.
And society has all these legalized and these are all harmful, but we're still able to continue as a society.
I would regulate sugar. I would have sugar be legal, but regulate it. Like maybe you can only regulate how much goes into our food because there's too much that goes into the food, and America has an obesity problem. So we regulate how much sugar we put into
and
food
like I
that
said,
people buy.
like we could pull up the
And
drug
sugar's
deaths, but
legal.
it'd be like drug deaths are like less than 1% of the population,
Again,
whereas like the obesity problem is 75%.
Again, you can keep
Overweight or
naming
obese.
all these different things.
These harmful things that you would say we need to ban, given your logic.
No, I wouldn't. My logic is not that we should ban everything harmful. That's not what I argued.
Yes, you were. That
No, I
drugs are
said
so dangerous they need to be banned.
I said some things could be banned, some things could be decriminalized, and some things could be legal, and all would be regulated. So we could sugar could be legal, and we could regulate it.
Yeah. So like, how are you regulating an illegal market? Like, how would you regulate the black market? Black market. The whole point of the black market is it's unregulated. Nobody knows what's going on.
Well, when it's illegal, you regulate the black market by policing black market activity. So it's easier to police drug dealers and drugs when they're illegal. When they're legal, you can't police it anymore. And if you think that legalizing something is going to get rid of the black market, you should look at the CHU organization in Maine and Oklahoma. How ever since weed's been legalized, they're making the cartridges that get sold in the pot shops. And one day they're going to poison all of America. That's a conspiracy theory. I don't know that, but they they are
so
taking
like
over.
I said, in terms of like
they're taking over Oklahoma. Crime rates, murder rates have skyrocketed because Chinese gangsters are growing all the pot.
Yeah, so when you have a regulated market, you know exactly what you're getting. The street dealer who just wants to increase his sales, he might sprinkle some fentanyl on some herb or some weed just so he can increase his sales. Whereas if you have a regulated market and they try to do that shit, they lose their business.
Okay,
stake in the game.
The pot market is regulated and legalization has driven up potency. There's no such thing as regs anymore. I don't see any regs.
What you mean regs? Regulations?
No, regs, like regs, mids, and dro. When I was a kid, we had something called regs. It was this weed that was like the corner of a brick and it had 28 seeds in it was garbage weed. Shit weed. They don't have that anymore because legalization drives up potency because customers demand the most potent product.
No.
The competition in the market drives up potency, drives up the customer base.
Okay, why don't we see the same thing for alcohol?
Because they regulate a potency of the alcohol, but I would argue.
Oh, so we could regulate the potency of the drug.
You're going to regulate the potency of well, then why haven't they done that with pot?
They've done it with alcohol. In Germany, you're not allowed to brew a beer unless it reaches a certain percentage.
Yeah. Okay. So you'd rather
put these regulations on.
If you want the cleanest, most healthy product, do you go to the local farmer's market or the local garden? Do you grow it yourself, or do you want the government to make it for you? What kind of dyes are they putting in the alcohol? What kind of they're loading it with sugar.
Depending on what I wanted. If I wanted like food that like I'm making sure there's no additional preservatives.
You expect the FDA to make the healthiest product for you?
I can grow it myself, but if I want like standardized testing where it's like, for example, like the reason why raw milk is because it can go off, it can go sour or whatever. So they get the word. They do something to it to basically prevent that, and that's like the main pasteurize it, exactly. So it's like in terms of like that aspect, the reason why they pasteurize it is for longer shelf life, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So in terms of like the dynamic here that's at play with regulation, you can make sure that a product, like the guidelines of the product, is enforced. Whereas if it's a black market, you don't know what's being done.
Okay, so black market, you could get dirty dope. Government gives you clean dope. Okay, so what about the logistics? How are we going to set this up?
I mean, how we
we're gonna have
we already have
injection sites and clean drug shoot up centers. How does that work out in America?
No, again, like I said, in terms of my aspect, the way I see it is the same way that you have a gun license or whatever. You put forward whatever drugs that you want to take or state whatever reasons, all that kind of shit. Even have like testing in terms of like, okay, what substance are you not allowed to take if you're on this drug, etc., just prove information and all this kind of stuff, right? Once you have that license, if you go out on the street and start getting drunk and disorderly or just like intoxicated and like antisocial behavior and stuff, that's already that's already laws that we already have in place.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is by extension is just say we're taking away your card for a month or 2 months because you went too ham.
Okay, these crimes are going to increase when you legalize it. You're talking about crimes of consumption. Crimes of consumption are going to increase when you legalize it, which spreads our police force thinner.
Yep.
Now they have to focus on all these, because as much as you say we're going to take your card away, an addict is still going to do that. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who can responsibly use and stuff, but there's going to be a carve out of the population that when you do this, you're going to open a floodgate where these addicts are going to use, and they're going to do crazy shit. Now our police force has to focus on that. When it's illegal, you focus on the black market. You can that's why the untouchables came around during Prohibition. We had a focused police force that just went after bootleggers. So it's easier for our cops to focus on the big guys who in the black market than it is on all the little guys when you legalize it. And you just let them run around shitting in the streets
again,
like we saw in Oregon.
Yeah. You have standardized regulations.
Standardized regulations. How are you going to standardize, drugs?
Yeah, because
certain drugs affect...
a dealer doesn't care. Well, if he's in one neighborhood, because he can just say, fuck it, I'm just going to go down to a different neighborhood, I'm just going to move, whatever. If someone owns a business, they're putting forward capital. They do not want to lose that fucking capital. They don't want to lose their business. So when they have tight regulations around it, you bet your bottom dollar they're going to make sure that they're sticking to the guidelines.
Okay, but they're not worried about all the business around them when all the drug users hang out outside their business. All the people on the streets are hanging out outside their business.
That's called loitering.
Yeah, now we got to arrest all these loiters. And we saw what happened with Oregon. Yeah. When you legalize drugs, police become lighter on crime.
What? Again, so like I was pointing out, JS, like with this whole kind of thing of play, you're pointing to other things. It's like, oh, what happens if they start being violent? It's like, we already have laws in place. If someone is violent, we lock them up.
Yeah, why did we make that illegal anyway? With your logic, they were taking their freedom away to hurt other people.
Because when you're talking about taking a drug, fundamentally, the act of taking a drug, the harm principle,
it harms other people.
Yeah, so like in terms of the harm principle that you're trying to put forward, how does it harm other people?
It harms. I explained it to you in my opening. It harms everybody around them. It harms the community. It harms the society.
You're just making the claim, because there's plenty of responsible drug users that. Yeah, there's plenty of responsible drug users that don't do that.
Yeah, and I said, and there's a population that do. A big chunk of them are going to do it. Also, you don't know.
And there's a huge population that are obese.
You don't know how
sugary foods.
You don't know how each drug is going to affect each individual. How are you going to regulate that?
You have testing, like, for example, like in terms of the medical industry, it's like they will go out of their way if they think something is the medical industry, if they think that something is profitable, this is why the whole trans thing has been pushed so strong, because the medical industry knows that we can get these people on the line, like do this whole like therapy and all this kind of shit, feed them hormones, and then when they're ripe enough age, we can convince them to go undergo this surgery and castrate themselves or mutilate themselves, and they're paying us thousands of dollars to do it.
I'm going to come back to that point, but I'm glad you brought up the trans thing. So Lupron for children for puberty blocking, would you legalize that?
No.
Why not?
Because the purpose
wait, you wouldn't legalize it?
Well, actually, no. If someone wanted to be legal, but I wouldn't have that as an actual effective treatment, which is what they're currently doing.
So what it's not intended for, you wouldn't let them use it for what it's not intended for.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Same way, like I wouldn't let someone, like, just because they have the knife, let them go around like fucking stabbing people in the street.
Was the intention of fentanyl, MDMA, was the intention of it what it was designed for and supposed to be used for people to get high?
But yeah.
No.
So people don't take drugs to get high.
Fentanyl is a powerful opiate that stops you from feeling things and helps you to anesthesia.
Yeah, pain, which is getting you high.
Okay. Oh wait. So every pharmaceutical drug, Xanax, is made to get people high.
Yeah. So for example, with the example of bleach, again, I wouldn't ban the bleach itself, but I would step in to prevent someone from drinking bleach.
Rohypnol.
The act is different to the substance.
Rohypnol was not designed to be a date rape drug. But
what was it designed for?
I don't even know what Rohypnol was designed for. I'm sure
Was it?
it was probably, a similar thing. Basically, I don't know. Look it up. But regardless, it wasn't designed to be a date rape drug. The forget me drug.
So it was designed
It's a
to treat.
benzodiazepine. It's for anxiety. It's like Xanax,
Yeah,
but stronger.
yeah. So it's used to
faster
treat.
acting.
It's used to treat severe insomnia and assist with anesthesia.
Yeah.
So again, like it gets you high. That's the intent.
To put somebody asleep so you can do surgery to them is
Yeah.
not to put somebody asleep so that you can grape them.
You're getting them high, yes. But again, that's not the intent. Like that's a different act. That's grape, JS. You can't just say it's like, oh, because this fella took drugs and then grape someone, we're just going to put all the responsibility onto the drug. That makes no sense.
Say that last part. I pulled my.
So you're saying you're bringing up grape, and just because someone takes drugs and then grapes someone doesn't mean that would say, oh well, like it's all the substance fault. No, that's the individual.
That's what people use that drug for. They don't even use it. They don't even use it for anesthesia anymore.
And some people use fire to burn things down. That doesn't mean that like that's the actual use or to say the use. The reason why I have fire is to keep yourselves warm.
But Rohypnol is illegal because there's no use for it anymore. They don't use it to anesthesia for anesthesia
use
anymore.
fentanyl.
Right. So
yes, and I can use.
So what is the purpose for legalizing Rohypnol?
The same way I can like buy sugar from a store and like go into a diabetic thing and start putting sugar in their coffee.
We don't use it in any medical means anymore. So what is the purpose of legalizing Rohypnol? Why would we need to do that? Why would we need to write policy and legislation around Rohypnol legalization? People want to buy it. They want to take it at a party. They want to get high with it. Why should we do that?
Because it's still used.
It's still used for what? For what's it used for?
Yeah, like just because someone gets a hammer or a knife and stabs someone, that doesn't mean that the actual individual object
going
is
back
the problem.
to this. I've already addressed this.
because what you're trying to attribute is you're trying to bring in other laws that are illegal.
Multiple uses for a hammer, multiple uses for a knife, not multiple uses for Rohypnol. Why should we legalize?
It's multiple. There's multiple uses. It can be used as a to treat insomnia and as an anesthetic. So that is a use outside the grape that you're trying to bring into this.
This is the
you're bringing in a different crime.
You just say regulate it.
Yeah,
just regulate it. We don't use Rohypnol anymore in medical.
If I was suffering from insomnia, why shouldn't I be able to go to the chemist and just say, give me some Rohypnol, whatever the standard dose is to treat insomnia?
Because the common use for it nowadays is as a party drug and a date grape drug.
What are you basing that off, JS?
Oh my God. Dude, we're going to play. What do I need to bring up stats for you?
No, you're saying this is the only use for this is to do date grape, right?
When have you, what have
no,
you
no,
heard?
one sec. You're saying, one sec, you're saying the only use for this is for date grape, right? But I've literally listed off that it was originally designed to treat insomnia and as an anesthetic.
I said a party.
You're just saying just because some people use it for this, that means they're all grapists, and then we need to like make drugs legal because of grape.
Yeah,
that's
like
basically
Xanax.
what you're saying.
If there's a pharmaceutical reason for Xanax, you don't need to just go and buy Xanax.
Painkiller.
You get a prescription. You get the card, like you were talking about. So the drug would be illegal for people who don't have the card. And then we would regulate.
But it would be legal. It would be legal. You just have to make sure you get your medical card.
No, that's not. Medical weed is not legalized weed. Weed is still illegal. But there's medical uses for it, so you get a medical card.
One sec. Can someone who has a prescription for medical
weed is still federally illegal? Weed was never legalized in Netherlands.
Can someone who has
never legalized weed?
A prescription? Can someone who has a prescription for medical weed buy regular weed?
Someone has a. Well, it's the same. It's the same weed at the shop. They go to the smoke shop.
Exactly. It's the same weed, JS. So what you're trying to make a distinction without a distinction.
Right, but weed is still so. Like here in Utah, we have medical weed. You can get a medical card. Weed is still illegal. You have a medical card so that you can go get it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying that we should do.
And, yeah, so you basically agree with my solution. You just say that I consider that illegal.
No, I say it should be illegal, and we have certain times where we regulate the legal use of it. You're saying it should be legal, and we regulate the legal use of it. That doesn't even make sense. Why do we need
Yeah.
do we need
So
extra regulations?
what does illegal mean?
Illegal means you're not allowed to possess, distribute, manufacture it, or ingest it.
Yeah, so basically you're saying something because this is the definition. Something that is forbidden by law or a set of official
Right.
rules, making it unlawful, illicit, and prohibited. You're saying that you want it to be illegal, but then you want to make laws for it.
No, I want it to be illegal, and then make it's
Regulation.
prohibited. So even under alcohol prohibition, there were certain times when you were allowed to have alcohol. So there's
If you
certain
cannot
times
possess it, you cannot distribute it. Then like, what are you talking about here, Jay?
during prohibition, it was illegal. Alcohol was
Yes.
illegal, right? It was
Yes.
prohibited.
Mhm.
But if all the alcohol you had before prohibition, you were allowed to keep. If you were an alcoholic, you could go to the doctor and they would give you alcohol.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is like regulation in terms of like regulating the sales.
hmm
Yes,
Yeah.
which means you're allowed to sell it, but it's under certain conditions.
Yeah, so you want the government to regulate the sales of destructive substances that cause harm to individuals and all the people around them and their society, that cost taxpayers money,
Fire is destructive, correct?
makes it more difficult on the police.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
fire is dangerous, correct?
Oh my God, you're gonna keep going to ban fire.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna
Dangerous.
ban fire. You know, you
Why
can
not?
be
Why not, JS? Why should we not ban fire?
because there's a lot of purposes for fire, and that would be nearly impossible. How are you gonna ban fire?
Same thing with drugs. There's a lot of purposes of drugs, and it'd be nearly impossible, as we've seen with the war on drugs.
You were talking about the other night about the CIA and how the government used LSD to do MK Ultra.
Yep.
To mind control people. You know, MK Ultra was like a test plan. They moved on to Project Monarch, I think it's called the Monarch Mind Control Program, and then subliminal messaging. So now they've optimized that. They figured out how to do all that stuff without having you be in a college and sit in front of a screen with your eyes open and dolphins on the screen, right? They figured out how to do that. But what are they missing? What's the one piece they're missing? They're missing the psychedelics. So what do? They say psychedelics like mushrooms and dissociatives like ketamine can treat your depression. And now you have people pushing to legalize mushrooms and ketamine. Now it's still illegal, but we regulate that you can use it for your depression. But people are going to push for it to be legalized like you're doing right now. This is
so the key thing that you missed out on the Yahtzee experimentation and what was continued by the CIA is they use those drugs unconsensually. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That like the people were unwitting recipients. They did not want this. And again, when we tie this back to, this is the equivalent of someone putting something in your drink to poison you. That act itself has nothing got to do with drugs.
Right. And if you wanted to affect the whole population on a larger scale, but you couldn't unconsensually put psychedelics into their food or into their drinks, how would you do that? You would legalize it, then you would market it, then you would advertise it. The same way that they market and advertise cigarettes and alcohol. You see pot billboards in California now. As soon as you legalize it,
again,
you're driving profit, you're driving the customer base up, you're advertising, you're marketing said thing.
That's how businesses work.
So instead of unconsensually giving you psychedelics to control your mind and make you dumbed down and demoralized and placated, they just get you to do it yourself. They say, we're going to legalize it. We're going to make billboards for it. We're going to sell it at the corner store.
Yes. A fatal flaw with this conspiracy theory is if they can get you to do it yourself, that means that they can get you to do anything, which means you're already fucked.
Yeah, they can get you to do anything a lot easier when you're on drugs.
If they already have the mind in the perfect place where they can get you to do whatever they want, then they already have controlled your mind. So congratulations, you've just proven yourself wrong because there was no drugs used beforehand, and now they're convincing you to use drugs.
No, I don't want to hand that power over to them.
What do you mean hand that power over to them?
I don't want to let the government legalize things that they're going to use against the people.
They've already controlled your mind to the point where they're forcing you, apparently forcing you to take drugs.
They haven't controlled my mind yet because I'm not arguing
Because
for
like
drug
the main flaw here is that it's like these drugs will change your or
they got
control
your
your
mind.
mind.
They've turned you to a cog in the wheel.
Yeah. So you're saying that these drugs change the minds, and we need to get them to use the drugs by changing their minds. It literally makes no sense, JS. Because if I can get you to use the drugs, then I already control your mind.
Wait, what? That
You're saying that these drugs control people's minds, correct?
they use the
deep state,
drugs.
they use the drugs to control the mind. But you're saying that they've already developed a system where they can get you to control you to use these drugs. What is the point of the drugs?
They can encourage you. They can nudge you.
What is the point? One sec. What is the point on like of the drugs then? If I already have a system in place that can get you to, I can get you to do whatever I want. If I already control your mind, why do I need drugs to control your mind when I can already control your mind?
They can't force you. They can't unconsensually force you to use the drugs. So what they do is they do things like legalizing it and advertising it to encourage you and to nudge you and to popularize it in society.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not the political perception of like crack and meth and heroin. If we legalized it, everybody wouldn't want to do it all of a sudden. But over time, once you legalize it and you start advertising it and marketing it, slowly people will start to use it more and more.
Were people still using alcohol when they prohibited it?
Yeah, but it went down. Yeah, but it went down a lot. Use went down a lot.
Like but again, Jess, we're on this conspiracy theory where it's like they're able to control your mind with these drugs. So they're basically controlling your mind anyway to get you to use these drugs. Then they control your mind. It makes no sense, Jess.
It makes sense. I don't know. You're trying to,
because the key thing that you missed with me doing that thing, and like I said, it was a bit of a bait that I brought that up, but it's this whole aspect of like they were unconsensually given the drugs, and then in those closed, controlled environments, like interrogation, for example, that's how they're able to enforce the behavior they want.
Okay, and so if you want to do that on
legalizing
a large scale,
and giving consumer a choice is not the same thing as kidnapping someone, forcing psychedelics into them, and then altering the behavior.
If you want to do that on a large scale, how would you do it? You would legalize. The psychedelics and market them.
Yeah, get
the people to voluntarily do it.
Yeah, the only way that you'd be able to do that, like even if you did prohibit it, right? Let's say like with the LSD, so you could still do it. You just put it into the water supply. Same thing they're doing with atrazine. So this whole thing of like we need to protect ourselves from the government.
Who's wearing a conspiracy hat now?
No, what I'm saying is it makes far more sense in terms of like what I was saying rather than what you're saying, because you're saying is they want you to take the mind control stuff, so they're going to control your mind to get you to take the mind control stuff. It literally makes no sense. What's the point of doing that in the first place if you already have a system in place that control their minds? And if anything, psychedelics break your mind. So they put in this system that to enforce the behavior and to control the minds of the populace, and then they're going to give you or force a substance on you that's going to break your mind and break that control.
They don't force it on you. They coerce you. They incentivize you doing it. They encourage it. They nudge you towards it. And they can't do that. They can't do that if the drug is illegal.
No,
if LSD is illegal, the government
can't
encourage you to do LSD.
The Satan figure or the evil villain figure you want to portray is that the government want to be able to control your behavior, correct? And what you're saying is that in this system where the government wants you to take these drugs so they can control your behavior, you're saying that they're already controlling your behavior and forcing down those lines of taking these quote mind drugs. But when you actually look at these psychedelics,
they're getting more and more control. I don't want the government.
It gives you ego death, which means it actually breaks the control, whatever preconceived state your mind is before, it's going to be different afterwards. So why would they give you something that would break that control?
I'm talking about dumbing down, demoralizing, and making people more complacent and more likely to just go along with the plan and be mindless zombies. I'm not talking the government's control, the government's power, their authority is law and order. It's enforcing laws and keeping and protecting people and property. Okay. So the government can do that by enforcing things like keeping drugs illegal, certain drugs illegal. You keep bringing up prohibition.
Why would these nefarious governments ban them in the first place?
Why would the nefarious governments ban drugs?
Yes. If these are great mind control tools, why have they not been using this for the past, like, however many decades?
So we brought up cocaine and marijuana. Cocaine was made illegal in 1919.
Originally it was in Coca-Cola.
It was in Coca-Cola, right? They made it illegal because they found out it was addictive and harmful.
Oh, okay. So the government back then were like the benevolent, nice, friendly, we're just looking out for the consumer. But the government now is the nefarious one that just wants to control your behavior. Which one is it, JS?
Yeah, I think the government back then wasn't as corrupt as it is now.
Okay, one sec. What year was MK Ultra and Bluebird? 60s and 70s. 60s and 70s, JS. Yes. So you're telling me the same government that like sanctioned all these, like where they were literally giving psychoactives to people who weren't not consenting, not even knowing that they were being
50 years later
being experimented on.
Yes,
you're saying that the government. You're saying JS. You're saying the government back then was the benevolent. They just want to look out for the consumer. But I'm showing you the Secret Service was literally didn't give a fuck about consent, was drugging people and doing experimentations on them. Now I'm giving you the modern day one. Why the fuck haven't they legalized it since then? And you're basically sitting there saying, well, no, the government was benevolent back then, but clearly it wasn't.
It wasn't totally benevolent, but it was less. It was less a mess than it is now. After World War II, after McCarthyism, there were commies coming into America, and they took examples from Mustache Man and from the communists, and they learned how to control the people better. And so they started implementing those things through universities and through things like legalizing more drugs.
Well, okay, so then why is LSD and magic mushrooms like Schedule 1?
Because have
why
you ever seen?
Why is marijuana Schedule
Have you ever
1?
seen somebody that does acid every day?
I've seen someone who smoked joints. I've seen you smoke joints, and you're not like some crazy schizophrenic or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not as
when
sharp
you're talking
as
about.
I'm not as sharp as I was when I was younger.
I ain't the sharpest tool, and yeah,
I ain't the sharpest crown in the block.
Yeah, you know? in terms of like the Schedule 1. Schedule 1 should be, it's like there is no medicinal purpose to this, and is like literally a dangerous or a deadly substance.
You want to get rid of the schedules?
Yes, because the government is full of shit. Because they sent out the Reefer Madness propaganda. Like, I highly encourage anybody to watch that film of Reefer Madness. And
I've seen it. I'm pro. I'm pro that.
But you have ingested THC despite that.
I'm pro using propaganda to discourage the mass population from using things that is unpredictable. It's unpredictable how it's going to affect each individual, and it shouldn't be mass available to everybody.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. Propaganda is a separate issue. Fire can be legal, but we propagandize around saying the like.
Yeah, but you keep bringing up Reefer Madness. What was so bad with Reefer Madness?
Because back then, when we look at the government, this is what they said is what marijuana done. But when we actually look at like what marijuana actually does, it doesn't send you into fits of crazy mania.
We are seeing with dabs and stuff like that, we are seeing people schizophrenics, and schizophrenia is on the rise. We're seeing schizophrenia when weed is legal and a schizo can walk into a pot shop and get pot at a young age when they're 18 and their brain is still developing.
And guess what?
That
already happens with alcohol.
Really
alcohol
crazy.
can trigger the exact same effect with schizophrenics. That's why they don't drink.
Okay, they do drink.
So what I'm pointing towards here, JS, which you're still not being able to identify.
Do they test people? Do they look at mental records when you try to buy alcohol or pot when it's legal?
How is this government that's like so nefarious on the shit, like banned all this shit, and I've kept it banned since, but now they've gotten more nefarious? Why haven't they rolled out like some magic mushrooms or LSD?
They are. Magic mushrooms are being used for depression now.
Yeah, so why would they ban them in the first place?
They're using it to treat depression.
Yeah. So when you look at
once you start legalizing pot, it's not far off till they legalize marijuana. This is why we tried this.
Because magic mushrooms are technically safer than pot. They're safer than alcohol. They're safer than cigarettes.
we have an example of this being tried, and it turned out horribly. Address that.
Where? When?
Oregon, Oregon, Washington, and Oregon. They decriminalized all hardcore drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's why this doesn't work in America when you try it in one state.
No,
Because
bro, we're still on this reefer madness where you were like, oh, the government
Okay.
was actually the good guys back then, but they were literally lying to you with the reefer madness.
I'm not saying they were the good guys, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with propaganda to discourage bad behavior, even if it is a lie.
No,
That's the
yes,
noble lie.
Your whole point is like this conspiracy theory you have where the current government is so nefarious, they're trying to like legalize all these like nefarious substances. When I point back to when you said it was a better time and the government was more benevolent, they were lying to you with this propaganda.
That's not even any of my main arguments. That's just something we got into.
Yeah,
Because I heard
like,
you talking about it last night.
Because like I said, like it was kind of like a low key bait that I was hoping you would take. But the main thing with that is that it was unconsensual. It was unwitting participants. They didn't even know what they were being used for. And this is why you have so much of the UFO
I know
stories
you keep saying
where they
that.
see a bright shining light and then they can't really remember what happened to them. They were drugged by the CIA and tested on. That's why the whole like probing story is a common
know.
thing.
Drugged
Yeah.
by the CIA in order
Against
to
their will.
Right. I know you keep saying that, and then I keep
Yeah.
giving you the rebuttal, which is when you can't do it against their will, or you want to make it on a larger scale, you just encourage the people to do it themselves.
Yeah, so why weren't they doing this back in the 1960s?
They were testing it. They were learning the system back then. That's when they were figuring it out. Now they're implementing it on a large scale.
Yeah, the problem with this is you're saying that these drugs are going to be used as mind control against the populace. But the only way in order to get them to use these drugs is to control their behavior, control their mind to get them to use the drugs. But then what the fuck is the point on giving them the drugs or getting them to use the drugs?
I don't know what you're saying. You're trying to do these like rhetorical circles, and I've said what I've answered your question over and over again.
Life's a circle, my friend. You're destined to live this time again. No, but seriously, like in terms of the reason why I keep going back to this is you're basically saying it's like these drugs are to use to mind control, but the government is trying to mind control you into using these drugs. And I'm giving the counter example of when you look at PTSD victims and how psilocybin has been able to use as an effective treatment for that. It's basically telling you that it's like their mind broke, and this psilocybin basically reset their mind.
Yeah.
So in this conspiracy where the government's trying to control your behavior, control your mind, why would they then push for substances that will break any mind control they have?
I'm not falling for that. I don't think it's a good idea to put people with PTSD on psilocybin.
Yeah, but it actually treats it.
I'm sure it does. Yeah, I'm sure when you're tripping on mushrooms, you forget about your trauma. I get it.
Yes. That's literally what happens.
And you become a ate up zombie pretty quick if you're doing your microdose turns into a macrodose.
And we have Jordan Peterson, who even said that, like, from the clinical trials he's looked at, that people that take psilocybin and have a mythical experience have an objectively better life.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure if you're tripping and you're high all the time, you're gonna have a happier life.
Not all the time. These are like clinical things where they just come in for that session and they do it for like a couple of weeks, whatever. And then afterwards, the effect, once you have that mystical experience, is an objectively better life.
Look, I'm not. We would have to have a stat battle on this, but I'm not falling for the clinical okey doke from big pharma and the medical industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industrial complex. I'm not going to fall for the okey doke. We can look at stats and go back and forth all day. Any stat you give me that says it's beneficial, I'll give you a stat to say that it's harmful. So
yeah, which is why it's useless to go over the stats because,
right.
For example, one of the studies
that
I'm going to say released. One of the studies that the American government released against marijuana to try and, like you were saying, propagandize. They said they'd done a study with monkeys and they got them to smoke the marijuana and it killed brain cells. That was erroneous. What they'd done is they put a gas mask on the monkeys and pumped cannabis into the monkeys. And they discovered that the reason why brain cells died is because there wasn't enough oxygen going into the monkeys. And they knew that and they still pushed it.
They still pushed the...
Yes.
Still push
that
what?
Marijuana kills brain cells when it doesn't actually. When you deplete oxygen from the brain cells die.
See, the studies I saw were done on rats, but of course, if it's an animal, it's going to be done unconsensually. When you're testing something on animals, it's going to be done
That's
unconsensually.
irrelevant. That's
Uh,
irrelevant.
The rats did not have gas masks on them. They were just in a hot boxed cage.
Yes, there's not enough
Okay.
oxygen getting into the brain. That's why the brain cells died, not because of the marijuana.
Do you think that people smoke weed in hot boxed cars like the rats in the hot boxed
Yes.
cage and not enough oxygen gets to their brain?
Yes.
So brain
Mhm.
cells die. So when the government figures out,
Mhm.
oh, weed will kill brain cells in rats if they're in a hot box cage, you just encourage the people to sit in a hot box car.
Where is the government propaganda encouraging people to hotbox? Can you please give me
Billboards,
some.
commercials. Have
Please.
you ever been to California?
Yeah, where's the hotbox? Please tell me where the hotbox is. Where's this propaganda?
In every high school
Because,
park,
again,
in every high school
This
parking lot during
has
lunchtime.
nothing got to do with the drug, JS. Again, it's got to do with the act. What you're saying is like, I'm depleting myself of oxygen. Yes, that's a bad thing to do. But
Have you ever
smoking
been to
marijuana?
California? No, they have billboards for
Been to
pot.
Boston.
They have commercials that come on the TV for the pot shops. There's pot shops on every corner and liquor stores on every corner. Okay, so more people smoking pot, and your monkey test, okay, but the rat test, they didn't have gas mask strapped to them. So more
Yes, but
people
they were
using
still-
pot.
They were still like basically oxygen deprived. They did not have enough oxygen. And naturally, when you're smoking and you're in a room that doesn't have
Bro,
enough,
I used
enough
to have
oxygen,
a
you will start
pot
coughing,
gas
you'll get
mask.
out of there. Yes.
I didn't have enough oxygen. I killed brain cells, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
marijuana itself does not kill brain cells.
either way, the brain cells
It's
are
the fact
dying.
that you literally depleted oxygen from your brain. That's what killed the brain cells, yes.
Okay. All right. And people deplete oxygen from their brain when they're using pot.
It's the same thing. Like you can technically get yourself high off oxygen if you start breathing in really fast. That's what kids usually do, and do the thing where they twirl around and it gives them a dizzy head. Are we gonna stop that behavior as well?
I think if people are doing harmful behaviors, yeah, we should, and we catch them doing
Okay,
it.
so
Yeah,
how
we should stop them.
how are we gonna stop a kid from breathing really fast?
If
or
somebody
turning
was
around really
about,
fast?
if somebody was about to jump off the bridge, somebody's standing
That's
on a
not-
bridge
that's
and
not
they're
my
about
point.
to jump off.
That's a straw man.
You just said, should we stop the behavior when somebody's doing this
Yeah. And how are we gonna
to try to
enforce
get
this?
high?
And then you
Okay.
tried to give the whole like there's a jumper.
So
That's not what
logically,
I'm
you're
saying.
saying if somebody is doing something to intentionally harm themselves, should we stop them? Yes. If somebody's about to jump off a bridge, they'll get a fire station out there. They'll put a cushion underneath them.
Mhm.
The cops, they'll send a negotiator to say, come on, man, life's not that bad. Step off the ledge.
Yeah, because the intent is to end their own life. The intent with the kid twirling around real fast or breathing really fast is just to have a very dizzy head.
And drugs, knowingly or unknowingly, the drug user is ending their own life quicker.
Bro, there is
Even
no
if
drugs
it's
in
pot.
this. There,
Even
there-
if
there
it's
is
pot.
there is no drugs in this. There is no drugs in this hypothetical. We're talking about
Oh my God,
breathing
it's
really
an
fast or
analogy.
turning around really fast.
It's an analogy, Terry.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you can affect your mental state by not even taking drugs. Should
If
we then
somebody
do
was-
that behavior?
If somebody was spinning in circles at the park until they died, yeah, I
Mhm.
would stop them from doing that.
Yeah. So the intent matters. So if I'm just trying to get high, you shouldn't stop me. If I'm trying to kill myself, then yeah, you should stop me.
Not if
Agreed?
you're no, because the person spinning in the park doesn't know they're gonna die from it. But let's say if you keep spinning for, I don't know, let's say it takes you 20 hours to spin to death. Or doing this, it takes you, if you did that for 10 hours, you would die.
Yep.
But you didn't know and you were doing it, but we knew, we would stop you. The same way,
Yes.
if you're smoking pot every day, it's harming your lungs. It's going to lead to
So,
a quicker
yeah.
death. We shouldn't enable
no-
that. We should.
No cigarettes either.
And
vape.
pot is a. I don't even have to argue that we need to make pot illegal. Let's make all these examples fentanyl. And I know you said in your opening he's going to talk about fentanyl.
We had the perfect example
don't
there.
Don't dodge.
I'm not dodging. You're the one who's trying to
talk
dodge
about
now.
the
Because like
fentanyl.
I said, the example I gave was a kid just breathing too fast or turning around in a circle. And you'd say, no, we need to stop that behavior. But like what I pointed out was the intent. If the kid's trying to do that to end their own life, then yeah, we should stop them. But if the kid's just trying to do that to feel dizzy because it feels funny, then what you're going to be patrolling through like kids' playgrounds saying, stop that kid, he's breathing too fast.
No, but if somebody's shooting up $100 worth of heroin every day, they're slowly killing themselves, whether they know it or not. A large
Yeah.
percentage of them are going to end up dead, and they're
Yeah.
not going to be able to get
So-
out of it.
And the same way these obese people who keep eating McDonald's and Burger King all day, every day, they're killing themselves. So are we going
Yeah.
to ban Burger King and McDonald's?
Listen, you keep going to all these whataboutisms for
Linda,
all these different
listen.
things. Are we? I'm fine
Yes.
with restricting the amount of Big Macs that somebody can buy every month.
Yeah, so now we have a government that a supposedly benevolent government that's going to say, no, you
that's
can't
not what
eat
I'm
any Big
arguing
Macs. No,
for.
yeah, yes you are. Yes you are, you
No.
commie bastard. Okay,
No.
don't run away from this. You're
No,
saying now
you're-
that because you're too fat, because you weigh too much in the scales, sorry Linda, you're not allowed your Big Mac today.
No, I
You
said
think
I
that's
would
a
be,
better system?
I said I would be okay with that. I didn't say that I'm advocating for it or I'm going to start going to war against.
You would be
Big
okay.
Macs.
Oh, so you but what you're saying is you'd be
Carry on.
okay with communism.
I don't have to argue that everything harmful should be banned. That's not my argument.
That's your
You're
logic.
arguing that everything should be legalized, even if it's going to kill you the first time you use it.
Yeah, because the first time I drink bleach, it's going to kill me.
So you can keep going to these little examples, and I'll say, no, I don't want to ban that. I don't want
Little?
to ban.
Hey, just 'cause I'm a
Sugar,
leprechaun doesn't make all my
sugar,
arguments little.
Big Macs, pot, caffeine, alcohol. Keep all those. I'm okay.
Mhm.
Legal. Keep them all. I'll give you
Yep.
that. Those should all be legalized. I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what about carfentanil?
That's fentanyl. It's like the same thing when you say, what about heroin? It's like, yeah, that's morphine.
No, I said carfentanil. It's a synthetic opioid. It's not the same thing as an opium. It's as a
And
poppy.
if you had fentanyl products that people could buy, they wouldn't bother with that shit.
What'd you say? If you had fentanyl products that you could buy, people wouldn't bother
Yes,
with
that
that
was
shit?
regulated.
You're wrong.
Like you get
No, you're wrong.
a can of Coke and it has 0.01 fentanyl in it.
No, you're wrong. You don't know anything about opiate addiction because you're wrong. If there's a stronger
Addiction.
substance, they're
we
going to
have-
seek it. They're going to
Sugar
look
is
for that
addictive.
stronger substance. So
There's actual scientific studies that
and in
prove that
10 years-
Oreos are more addictive than cocaine.
oh my God, we're not talking about Oreos.
Yeah, we're not talking about addiction, JS. Talking about drugs, not addiction.
Drugs lead
Because-
to addiction.
Because no, what you're saying, because you cannot actually
don't
prove
wanna-
that claim.
You
That's
don't
like
wanna
that's
talk
like
about
the
addiction.
the
Yes, I
same
can
myth that was
prove that
propagated
claim.
that marijuana was a gateway drug. The only thing marijuana is a
reason
gateway
we
to is
made
the fridge.
cocaine
Okay,
illegal is because it was highly addictive.
there's highly addictive substances all the time.
You become physically the way that an
Yes.
opiate works. You become physically dependent on it.
And okay,
can't-
and people, yeah, and there's people who are physically dependent on carbs. Should we outlaw carbs?
God.
No.
No, because I don't have to argue that we need to make everything illegal. I just need to argue that there's at least some
No,
things we
no,
should
no, no,
make
no, no, no,
illegal.
no. Your argument, and like I said, because I knew you, I was in your mind. That should have been warning signal that went off. I knew what your argument was going to be. You're going to say safety and addiction, and I've disproved both of those. So you need to make another
haven't.
argument that's
No, you
nothing got to
haven't.
do with safety or
No,
addiction.
you haven't. You've
Yes, I
done
have.
what about sugar?
I've
What
given
about
you,
caffeine?
yes, I've given you hypotheticals
My
where your logic
freedoms.
fails.
I need to have my freedoms. I want to be able to do my drugs.
Yes,
And whenever I talk about any drug,
yeah.
that
I
there's-
want my freedoms. I
there's
just
no
want to be able to
medical
hold
use
my
for it.
gun. Yes, you have every right to hold your gun, sir.
anyway.
Whatever way you want to defend yourself should be legal. The same way whatever substance you want to put in your body should be legal.
Yeah, I don't. You're gonna dodge every time.
How am I dodging?
If I brought up a list of drugs that there's no medical use for,
Yes.
and they kill people.
Yeah.
Sometimes
The cyanide.
instantly. A lot of
Cyanide.
times.
You can
Used
make
to be-
cyanide out of. You can make cyanide out of apple seeds.
You know why
We
they
ban
made
apples?
You know why they made MDMA illegal?
How'd you like those apples?
Because it became a party drug. Young people started getting a hold of it.
Yeah.
And they would go to raves and they would take a bunch of ecstasy and they would die. They made it punishable by life and death penalty in some states if you sold if you sold a bag of MDMA pills, each MDMA pill would be a death sentence because one pill could
yep.
kill somebody. So
And this is another argument of safety. And it'd be safer if no one had any guns, right, JS? Well, should we do it?
But addicts want that drug that could kill somebody in one shot because that's the
Yes.
strong one.
And murderers want that gun to kill people.
you're dodging why it should be legal to have something.
I'm not dodging. I'm giving the same logic back to you with the gun debate, and you don't like it.
You don't know how. Yeah, I know you're dodging and you're doing whataboutism.
I'm not dodging. I'm literally taking your logic and applying it to a different
I
situation.
already said
and it's failing.
I don't have to argue that everything bad should be legal or banned, but certain things should be. And you are arguing that all things should, all the drugs should be legal.
Yes.
I'm saying there are some drugs that should be illegal.
Yes, and the main two reasons why you specified it is either addiction or safety. And I've given you countless other examples where this is not an argument that's made. Gun is one example. The kids breathing in and out so they can get dizzy head that way.
No,
that's another.
I also gave a whole logistics argument that you haven't touched on about how it destroys property values.
BLM does the same thing. BLM has destroyed a lot of property values. Yeah.
Again, with the whataboutisms, like it's just
what I'm pointing towards is that's an ideology. The drug it's a drug. It's the individual that commits that act. You're trying to like have the background as drugs, but then talk about illegal activity or illegal actions like rape or whatever. That's already illegal.
I'm talking about drugs.
No, you're trying to bring in other crimes. Say, oh yeah, because like this behavior encourages crime, but the person could never have taken drugs. The person could never have taken drugs and still be a criminal.
Yeah,
correct?
Those are called crimes of consumption. Those increase when people are high on drugs.
So you're literally using, I'm coming down with a bit of consumption, boss. Is that like the thing? Like, because in terms of like, if no matter what substance you take, if you commit a crime, you're a criminal. I don't want to hear this shit. Oh, well, it's the drugs, because you're literally subverting accountability. You were sober when you took those drugs, and then when you were on the drugs, you committed an illegal act. You're getting punished.
People do crimes no matter what. When you legalize drugs, certain crimes go up.
Yes, and if you were to make all knives and guns illegal, you will reduce gun and knife crime.
Okay. I didn't even get to the whole prohibition is good thing. I have a list of stats here, but
there's still more time. We still have the Q&A and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. All
right. So, that is the hour of open floor. Again, thank you to both debaters for coming and giving your argument. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Remember, drop your questions in that Q&A. Okay, we're going to do this for about 30 minutes here. I'll even put the timer on again for you. We're going to do this for about 30 minutes, answer questions.
If you guys do closings first, or?
Yeah, we're going to do closings first. Yeah, I'm just letting them know that after the closings, we're going to do this for about 30 minutes. So get your questions in. And again, if you want them to be priority, Super Chat will be prioritized on the questions. All right, so let's get this over. We're going to do 5-minute closing statements. We started with Teriak. So for closings, we're going to start with Teriak and end on JS. So Teriak, whenever you are ready, let me get the timer up here for you. Whenever you're ready, we'll start this up.
Yeah, so again, just want to give a shout out to Easy for hosting this, and a shout out for JS as well for giving a good debate. Like I said, like I kind of predicted that like he was going to go down the whole like safety or addiction route, and like I said, I kind of gave the corresponding examples where it's, you can technically make yourself high without even taking in a drug. Just breathe really fast or spin around in a circle. Again, when we talk about things like the prohibition and stuff, it's just he wants to kind of talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's just another strike against this whole war on drugs that we see. And again, like he doesn't like the gun argument or the gun analogy because it's essentially the exact same principle. You know what I mean? Guns are there to cause damage fundamentally. Same thing with knives, but just because something is dangerous does not mean that we should make it illegal. Same thing with drugs. Like I said, I gave the mathematician Erdos. Again, like I think it's like 1,500, like 1,500 papers that he wrote in mathematics, and his whole counter to it is like, I can go off it for a month, but you're just literally holding back mathematics. Same way, if I come up with a diet that increases my physical performance, why can't I have a drug that increases my mental performance? Especially when we talk about psychedelics, and we didn't even get into like one of the main psychedelics, which is causing ripples throughout the whole scientific community, which is DMT. That's a substance, by the way, that gets excreted when you're sleeping. So in terms of this whole thing of like these mind-altering drugs are too dangerous, all this stuff, it's all it is. It's the same stuff that they've done around with the marijuana. And the reason why it's called marijuana is because it sounded more Mexican. The cannabis itself, like that, like that's why they changed the words. But again, like I said, in terms of the psychedelics like DMT, like there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of that as well. But if you have the mentality where it's like, I just want the government to keep me safe, then you'll eventually put yourself into comfortable slavery over dangerous freedom. And as a famous American once said, give me liberty or give me death. And with that, I can see the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you, Teriak. And we're going to hand this over to JS for the final closing statement. Whenever you're ready, JS, I'll start the timer up for you.
All right. I'm ready. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Easy. Thank you, Teriak. What do they say? That was a spirited debate. It was pretty much as I expected. He's not the only one that predicted what it was going to be. I thought he was going to go a different route, but this was another idea that was in my head, because this is what this always becomes, which is, what about the caffeine? What about sugar? What about guns? What about Big Macs? This is always what people do. I addressed this in my opening. I don't have to say that we need to ban everything harmful. That was not my argument. I just have to say certain things are so harmful that we should ban them or make them illegal. And we're talking about drugs. He wants to legalize all the drugs, even if it can kill you the first time. He also didn't pay attention to my opening because I mentioned DMT in my opening. DMT is crazy. If you're talking about using psychedelics and then you pretend like they don't want to mind control us, but then we're going to start encouraging DMT now. That's wild. This essentially breaks down to a selfishness argument. It's about my freedoms. I want to be able to do what I want to do. Give me liberty or give me death. Drug legalization is a eugenicist plan. They'll give you liberty and they'll give you death. They'll give you both. That's what they want. They want to reduce the population. They want to dumb us down and demoralize us and make us easier to control and more complacent. The drugs will do that to the people in the society who aren't going to go out and commit crimes when they do drugs. They're just going to do it nicely in their house, but they're going to become zombies to the system. They're going to become cogs in the wheels. The other people who go out and commit crimes, they want you to do that. That gives them a reason to lock you up. You kill each other. People die in the streets. People die of addiction. So, and legalizing doesn't do anything to stop the black market, as we've seen, as with pot, as with China and the CHU organization in Maine and in Oklahoma. Organized crime has gone up in those areas because of legalized marijuana. It incentivizes them to do these things. Driving profits and driving market, just because people want their freedoms, even if it's harmful, is immoral. Again, this is just a selfishness thing. My arguments aren't for myself. I like smoking pot. I like drinking. I like smoking pot. I like smoking cigarettes, but this isn't for me. This is for the future generations. This is for my imaginary grandbabies. When they made cocaine illegal in 1919, I'm sure there were a lot of cokeheads who were real upset. They were big mad. They were like, oh, I want my cocaine, my freedoms. Now, 4 generations later, kids are born into a world where they'll never know what legalized cocaine looked like. People were getting addicted. People were dying. So we stopped it. And it worked out well. We haven't repealed cocaine prohibition. The only reason we repealed alcohol prohibition, which had tons of positive benefits to it, and all the numbers increased back after we ended prohibition, was so that we could make money to pull us out of the Great Depression. We made money off of making people alcoholics. And now there's bums outside of the 7-Eleven getting a 40 on every corner in America. They wake up first thing in the morning, and they start getting drunk. And they pass out on the sidewalk, and then next day, same thing again. And we enable that. That's not good. That's not how you have a civilized society. And it's not communist to say that we should try to stop these things however we can. What else do I got here? It's a genie in a bottle. Once you let this genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back. It's a dangerous experiment. We've tried it before in America. It doesn't work. If you want to try this shit in Ireland, go ahead. Maybe it'll work there. But don't push it on me wearing your Make America Great Again. I got 4 Make America Great Again hats right around me. We don't make America great again by legalizing damn DMT and LSD and fentanyl and Flocka. And dude, there's crocodile. We didn't even talk about crocodile. Your limbs rot off. Your legs will fall off of you. Flocka people eat each other's faces. PCP, you'll rip a stop sign out of the ground and start beating cops over the head with it. This is crazy. I don't care about your whataboutisms. I don't have to make everything illegal. I just got to make one. Let's make crocodile illegal. The end.
Thank you, JS, for that closing statement. And chat, now we are going to get into a Q&A section here. We'll do this for about 30 minutes. All right, so get your questions there in the Q&A. And if you want your questions prioritized, bumped ahead, go ahead and super chat it for priority. And also, I have a poll up. Who won the debate based on argument, delivery, competence, and logic? So go ahead, put your votes in on the poll as well, and we'll look at the results of the poll after the Q&A section here. So let's get into this quick. We got a couple super chats just right at the starting. It was one was Kat right before we started said, "I'm offended that these turds didn't ask me about this topic." Do you guys want to respond to Kat?
To be fair, though, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna. I already responded to her in the chat, but I don't know. Then I would be doing an appeal to authority of the pharmacist, but I think I have more authority on this. I'm an expert in this. I seen it.
Yeah, just I think like both of us were playing our cards close to the chest. I mean, so we kind of kept on the DL. I mean, in terms of strategies, all this kind of stuff, you know.
Not really.
Smart.
I did a whole prep stream, but kinda.
And then our only other super chat, you lacking, all right? But only other super chat we got on this side. Joe Cool said, "Go, good show, easy." Shout out to you, Joe Cool. Thank you for the support. And yeah, it was really good. They made my job super easy. I didn't have to interrupt at all. Also, before we get into the Q&A, I'm going to get priority here too. I have 2 questions for both sides. Okay, so first off, I'll give one to Teriak. If all drugs are legalized, how do we prevent like what JS is bringing up, the addiction rates from spiking, right? Like especially among like the youth and poor people. Like what would be like a prevention you would add in here?
Yeah, so like in terms of what I was saying for in terms of like having that like medical card, like part of this process is you're gonna have to be able to prove that you know the actual specifics of the drug, the dangers, all this kind of stuff. In terms of preventing addiction, that in of itself is there's a deeper cause of that, and that's because the person has lost purpose. They'd rather just like clock out of life and just typically they take downers to it as well. So in terms of like that aspect of the addiction, it should be like a whole separate issue in terms of like I was kind of bringing up in terms of like the carbohydrate addiction or just like food addiction that people tend to have as well. Those people like need like specialized programs for them because generally when you're talking with someone who would rather just like clock out of life, they do not have the will to live kind of aspect to it. So that's like I said, it's an important thing to bring up, but in terms of the debate itself, like we're just talking about the substance, not the actual behavior itself.
Okay. And then my other question for you I have here is there any evidence that regulation would control like the use of it or like rather than like normalize the dependency of it?
Yeah, so like I kind of briefly touched on this. But like the whole aspect of if you have like a street dealer, it's just like there's no regulation. He's just doing whatever makes him the most sale versus an actual company that's like registered, pays taxes, all the stuff. The people who are producing that product, they're more at risk, particularly because of like the whole legal system, like they have their address and everything. Versus like a street dealer where you don't know his address, you don't even know who he's selling to. There's just like a lot of damage in that aspect. So in terms of like I said, like having companies like actual established companies or just like pharmaceutical companies that we already have, like they're going to follow the letter of the law to the degree. So like that would be kind of my way around it, I guess.
Okay. All right. And then I have two questions for you as well, Teriak. Or I
JS.
mean JS, sorry. Um, if regulation, right, can drastically reduce the overdoses, say, like if we were to see that, would you say that maintaining the prohibition would be choosing the more dangerous system, or would you still be firm on prohibition?
If regulation could reduce the overdose rates,
Yeah, and like black market violence, say, like because that was one of Teriak's arguments, and like say this was something that could happen, like the black market
yeah,
violence went down, overdose deaths went down. Would maintaining prohibition be a more dangerous system, or would you still think this was the choice we should stick with?
if it reduced overdoses and it reduced the number of users, like number of users didn't increase, I would be I would be okay with regulating it. But still, again, it's not about the regulation, it's about is it legal or illegal. So like if you have regulation on heroin, are you going to put a limit to how much heroin a person can do a day? Because that's not going to work. They're just going to go out and buy it. Somebody's going to go in and get it, and then they're going to sell it on the streets anyway. Are you going to make that illegal? Now you've made a drug illegal and you're regulating the legal use of it. So, I mean, if you could find a way where a certain drug where it reduced overdoses and addiction, then yeah, I'd be okay with that regulation. But
Okay, and then one of the things that everyone always brings up, and I think I know what your answer will be with this one, but like, so like, do you think like it's justified to criminalize, sorry, the personal choice of drug use when we have like legal substances like alcohol, like tobacco, weed in some places? Like, do you think it's justified to criminalize the personal choice there when we have this going on, or would you extend it to these things maybe?
yeah, I think it's justified for certain drugs. So um, drugs, you got to go on a case by case basis. This is why saying legalize all drugs is crazy. You have to go case by case. You have to look at the harms. You have to study it, and you could say, okay, this one, we can regulate this and legalize this and sell this at the gas station. This one, hell no. There's no reason anybody should be buying this, and so it's case by case.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we got Daniel from the chat in the questionnaire said, Daniel the Real Ramirez said, thoughts on the gray market. So I think that might be for both of you.
I think what he's talking about is the fact that when you when you legalize it, the government just basically becomes the black market, but they're the gray market. I don't know what he's talking about, but I think that's what he's saying, because it basically, when you legalize it, the government is just the black market now. So if that's what the gray market is, then no, that's not good. I don't think our government should
It's
be making money.
basically like the sale of like oxycontins, but it would be like the oxycontins prescription being sold, not the prescription but the pills being sold, but not by a doctor. Something like this, because someone can just like get it prescribed to them, and they kind of like doctor shop around to get it
Yeah,
prescribed by a
yeah.
bunch of different doctors and then sell them. This
So
would be like
like,
the gray market.
yeah, so like the Sackler family, what they were doing in Florida a lot. If that's the gray market, but that's where like doctors are doing it, but it's and they're not breaking the law, but it's yeah, that's bad. I guess that's bad.
Yeah, like in examples like that, like that's what I want to get rid of with this legalization and regulation. Like this thing of like we want to make sure that everything's transparent. So if you are going to take a psychedelic, I would rather a system where it's like, okay, you can go up, you know what you're getting, whatever it says in the bottle is what it actually is. And like I said, these kind of workarounds or loopholes that they try to do in terms of the current things. Another example would be like if a drug is decriminalized. I mean, they like a legal company couldn't establish and like start producing the drug. So you have like a lot of these yeah, like there's a lot of these problems that get caused by not just kind of like being responsible enough to kind of like actually tackle this issue responsibly. I think, in my opinion, at least.
All right. Our next question we got here from Bruce B619. If drug potency was regulated like ibuprofen or aspirin, what would be the harm in getting other drugs over the counter? So I'm guessing this one's for you, JS.
Because some drugs, the potency, like carfentanil, the potency is not made for human consumption, but there's some humans that can handle it and they're going to want it. We're going to regulate something that's going to kill most of the people who could take it. How are we going to know what their tolerance is when they walk into the door of the pharmacy and they ask for some carfentanil? We don't know their tolerance. You can't do a tolerance test on them. So
But like the same
there's
way
no reason that we should sell that to somebody.
the same way we discover tolerances for all types of other drugs.
You don't know an
Clinical
individual.
trials.
You don't know an individual's tolerance, and this is something I
Yeah.
kept trying to bring up. Every drug will affect each individual differently.
Mhm.
So you don't know their tolerance. You don't know how it's going to affect them. You don't know their background. And it's dangerous to sell somebody like it's like with guns. You know, we send them through a process to sell them the gun. Since you want to keep bringing up guns, there's a process that we do background checks and things like that. You can't do a background check on somebody's tolerance. How are you going to do that?
They do it for all sorts of drugs all the time. And
A
even
to- a
just with
tolerance
alcohol,
test?
you don't know what your tolerance is the first time you're drinking alcohol, but it's not dangerous.
Huh? But yeah, but
You're
alcohol
saying
also
we don't know their tolerance, and because we don't know their tolerance, it's dangerous. That's what you're
alcohol will
saying.
not kill you if you take one sip of a beer. If you take
Yes.
one microscopic bit of carfentanil, you will die.
Yeah. And how do
If
we
you
know
don't
that?
have a tolerance. If you don't have a
And how do we know
tolerance.
that?
Because it's made for
So we do.
elephants.
Yeah, so we do know what the tolerance is, or we are able to have some sort of system to calculate what the tolerance would be. Or
No,
what
what do
a
you think
healthy dose
tolerance
would be.
means? What do you think tolerance means? A
Like how
healthy
much
dose of
yeah,
carfentanil?
yeah, by reducing
No.
the potency.
Then it's just fentanyl. They want carfentanil.
Yeah, but you can just take more.
But okay. How you can't what I'm saying is you can't tell if somebody has been doing heroin for 10 years and
Like
they're going to be
this,
able to take fentanyl.
you do realize that like beer and moonshine are still both alcohol,
Yes,
correct?
but even a
Yes.
shot of
So
moonshine
but basically,
isn't
yeah,
going to
but
kill you.
what you're trying to say is that like one shot of like this carfentanil, but like that's moonshine. That's it, like taken to the fucking extreme.
No,
It's still fentanyl
totally
at the end of the
different.
day.
It's totally
Yeah,
different.
the same way moonshine
This
is
is
completely
why
different to
this
a
is why
beer.
it's
If you had a
case to
glass,
case.
if you had a pint glass of moonshine you drank it, you probably would die. Versus a pint of beer, there's
And
no issues whatsoever.
moonshining is illegal.
Yes, but moonshining became popular in Prohibition.
I think they've always been moonshining in the mountains. I think they were doing it before Prohibition, but
either way, like what we're talking about here is the potency of the thing. And when you have it regulated and an industry based around it, you're going to have all the way from the weak strains to the more extreme strains. But even in the more extreme strains, that you just put regulation on it where it's like, this is the max dose that a person could have. And you can calculate that out through clinical trials and testing.
yeah, but some 21-year-old who's never done an opiate before, they meet some guys at the party who got some fentanyl,
Mhm.
and then they want to try some fentanyl. because they heard it was fun and they go try
Yep.
it. There's no way the pharmacist can test what their tolerance is to know that it's okay or not to sell that to them.
Yeah, but we
So they
can do
buy it
clinical,
and then
we
they
can do
die the first time they use it.
we can do clinical studies where it's like how strict do you think these trials are? Like that's why they do the trials, so they're able to work out how much is enough or like a tolerable dose. And then, like I said, if it goes too fatal, we know for a fact that after this amount, it's
I
fatal.
don't think you're getting what I'm saying. There's certain drugs that if you
Yep.
haven't built a tolerance to it, it will kill you. If somebody wants to buy that drug, should they be allowed to? But they have no tolerance. They've never done an opiate. Should
Like
they be
what
able
you're
to buy
talking about with
iso?
tolerance, what you're talking about with tolerance here is like that gets worked out in the clinical trials. So even for a first time user, they'd be able to work out this would be a fatal dose if they took this.
How did they
We're not
know if
selling
you're a
this.
first time user? They're going to ask you?
No, JS, I like listen to what I'm saying. When they're doing
Self-reporting
clinical
on tolerance.
when they do clinical trials and testing, what are they doing? What are they testing for?
They're testing to see how it affects people.
Yes, and what the max and min dosages should be, correct?
Yes, I know. I get it.
Exactly. So this whole tolerance argument that you have makes no sense.
It does make sense because the minimum dosage of carfentanil will kill somebody who's never done an opiate before. So how do they
What do you mean the
know
minimum dosage? What do you mean by the minimum dosage?
a microscopic amount will kill somebody?
Yes, but you can take that microscopic amount and make it diluted, correct?
But how much? Are
Yeah,
you
because like my system right here, you have to walk into a clinic and you have to prove that you have knowledge of this drug, you know all the limitations, all this kind of shit. What you're saying is in the current system, people can just buy out and that's why they die. It's like, yes, because we don't have regulations. We're trying to like hide from our duty.
Yeah, I don't.
All
I
right,
don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's get another question in here. So actually, the next one came in from Bruce again. Bruce B619 said, "What happened to the mafia after prohibition ended? If we ended the war on drugs, would it have the same effect on the drug cartels?" And I think this one might be for Teriak instead.
Yeah, so like a key aspect here is that when you prohibited alcohol, you basically gave a revenue stream to all these criminal organizations or families or whatever, because now all of a sudden there's a product or whatever that the state's not able to produce because it's banned it itself, but it's able to because it's already a criminal organization. It is no issue skirting the laws. So then you're basically saying to the end customer, the only people you can buy this off are shady criminals. Whereas if you have a regulated system, all the stuff, you're not giving these criminal enterprises a revenue stream. Like for example, like the cartels in Mexico, like the reason why they're able to make all their they made all their drug money was off marijuana. Hence why the American government's like, no, we need to legalize and regulate this, because essentially we're just like giving a full market to like these criminal industries. So when you regulate it and you actually have a proper system in place, you don't have criminals who are dictating the ebbs and flows of the market. You have like actual government officials.
Yeah, this is the same as the abortion debate where people will say, well, it's going to lead to back alley abortions. I want illegal things to be done in the back alley so then we can focus the policing on the back alley. I don't want them to be done in broad daylight.
Yeah, but an abortion is killing a kid. Taking a drug is not killing a kid.
I know. I'm just saying it's the same thing. It's saying if we make this illegal, people are still going to do it, but they're going to do it on the black market. They're going to do it illegally. Good. It should be done if they're going to do it, they should be doing it illegally, and then we catch the people who are doing it illegally.
Yes, what I'm pointing to is that the fact that the cartels were able to gain so much power because you prohibited marijuana. Like 80% of their revenue is from marijuana.
You mean the mafia?
Like cartels in Mexico. The mafia would have been alcohol during prohibition, but like
right now, I don't even like this argument that prohibition led to organized crime. There was always organized crime since the beginning of time. Legalizing marijuana has led to organized criminals taking over
organized criminals
Oklahoma.
got more powerful though. They got more powerful because they were able to
legalized
make money off these illegal
weed,
substances.
And Chinese gangs, snakeheads, have taken over Maine and Oklahoma. They're buying up land everywhere, and they're growing.
There's Muslims taking over Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah, that's not good either.
Yeah, So, like I said, drugs or no drugs, this is still an issue. You're pointing towards stuff. You have to specifically point towards something where the drug itself is the issue, not the act or the like something that's like ambiguous, like grape or
I just told you, legalizing marijuana has led to a rise in Chinese gangs and murder
yeah. But if
rates
you had
going up
proper
in
if you
Oklahoma.
had proper immigration policies and let's say regulation where only American businesses can sell drugs in America, then you can circumvent that.
Yeah, I agree. Making it
Yeah.
harder,
So
tighter immigration
So
problems.
just
Yeah.
by fixing the immigration.
So
I mean,
people
it's
can't
nothing got
smuggle
to
in
do with drug
drugs. Right, because
No,
if you
it's got-
reduce the
it's-
supply, less people have access to it. Shocker.
Yeah, and
When you legalize it, you increase the supply.
yeah,
You
okay. So in terms
incentivize
of
the
okay, so
supply.
why did the mafia make so much money? Why did the cartels make so much money?
The mafia, dude, the untouchables, murder rates and violent crime rates only went up in Chicago during Prohibition. That's one city. And it wasn't enough
Yes.
to outweigh
Yes.
all the crime that plummeted in the rest of America. And then as soon as they ended
Yeah,
Prohibition, they went right back up to their normal numbers.
So you're saying that like when they prohibited it, they reduced the crime.
Yeah.
So like in terms of like the selling off like the speakeasies, pun intended. But, like,
Assault
they
decreased
weren't-
by
yeah.
535%.
yeah.
Vagrancy declined 52%. Disorderly conduct went down 51%. Delinquency was cut in half. Death from cirrhosis was cut in half. Domestic
keep gosh
complaints
on, yep.
decreased by 2/3.
Mhm.
County hospitalization reached historic lows.
Yeah,
And all
if
these
we're to
numbers
out-
went back
if
at the
if
end of
we're to
Prohibition.
outlaw knives and guns, that would reduce those numbers too, correct?
Yeah, sure.
All right, coming in, bumping herself up here, 10 pound. Thank you, Chassis Bear. I'm going to sleep. See you in a couple hours. Great debate, Easy. Yes, again, it was a great debate from them both. And again, if you're not subbed up to both the debaters, go into the description, sub up to them both. Go hit their live stream quick, give them a like, send them a super chat, all that. All right. Let's see how many more of these questions we can get. I think we can get through them. We got about almost 10 minutes left. Coming in from Kat. Why are you gay?
Because he's
Who
high.
says I'm gay? Who says I'm gay?
Because he's high.
Thank you, Kat. Coming in from Marte on the edge. If we legalize drugs, do you think we should eliminate the regulation, eliminate age limits, and limit pharmaceutical overreach?
No.
I think that's for you, Terry. I don't think he realized you were saying you wanted regulation on specific.
Yeah,
So, like that was the
his
that's
whole
the key part
argument
of it,
is
they're putting in regulation.
his whole argument is basically legalize it, but regulate it so much that it might as well just be illegal.
No,
Yeah,
that's a straw man. Because like I
Well,
said,
let
you have
me
the card,
actually
make sure
ask
you have
a
the proof.
question to make clear something that me and Jeremy were kind of debating in the chat and about to take here. So, if what I was thinking was happening was that like Teriak was saying, like he wants very limited regulations, like he still wants you to be able to recreationally use anything, but they're like age limits and things like this. Where JS, you're saying you want regulation as in it's illegal and it's only legal in the sense of you have the permission from a doctor or whatever to use it for a specific reason.
right.
This is, am I correct on both of these?
Yeah, he's saying legalize it and regulate how you use it legally, and I'm saying make it illegal and regulate how you use it legally. So it's what he's saying with the medical card is the same thing we already do with pharmaceutical drugs. Like they're illegal. OxyContin is illegal, but you can get a prescription for it and do it legally. And then the doctor is going to know you. He's going to know what you're capable of handling. He's not just going to start you on fentanyl. He's going to give you.
But Jess, what about first time use? How is he able to know the tolerance if it's first time use?
He would give you Vicodins,
exactly.
or he would give you Vicodins or Percocets first.
Yep.
Right.
So we
Okay.
can work out what your tolerance is.
So it's going to
There's
be
ways to
illegal.
work out tolerance.
Yeah, So we're gonna have doctors prescribing all the drugs. That's what we already do, Terry.
Exactly. That's what I'm
But there's
saying. Why
certain
not just
drugs
make them
that a
legal and
doctor-
regulate it?
But there's certain drugs that are made for animals that people take and want to take
Yeah.
that doctors will not prescribe to humans. You're saying
Yeah,
that-
I can just get a
that they
dog and
should-
say, "Oh, I need this thing for my dog," and then I just take it. Like, or like that's what a lot of mothers do. That's why they ended up like
No,
being
you're
strung
saying-
on benzo or amphetamines, because they get their kid has ADHD and then they take the amphetamines themselves.
that's dumb.
It is.
dumb.
It is,
So I get-
JS.
So I can't buy carfentanyl's for elephants. I can't, and ISO is for horses. Okay, I can't buy
can. Yes, you
ISO
can.
for myself.
Yes,
In your system,
you-
can I
no,
buy ISO?
if you're a
for
zookeeper,
myself?
if you're a zookeeper, you can still buy those things and take them yourself.
This is what we already do, dude, and those drugs are illegal.
This is what I'm saying. Like, it sounds like a controversial thing to legalize all drugs but regulate them, but it's literally what we're already kind of doing.
Right? Yeah.
The only
so-
difference is, like, if I want to go on like a mystical fucking journey or a quest or whatever the fuck they call it, a vision quest, like, why can't I just go down to my pharmacy and say, give us like 3 grams of shrooms?
Cat coming in with $10 says doctors and pharmacists do opiate conversations based on
Conversion.
morphine equivalents.
Yeah,
com-
conversions.
conversions. Yeah,
Conversions. What did I say? Holy fuck.
conversations.
Conversations. Opiate conversions based on morphine equivalents. Anyone want to speak to this?
Yeah, so like heroin and morphine are essentially the same thing. Heroin is just a weaker strain of what you actually get given in the hospital.
Yeah,
So
and
this
so
whole
is-
aspect, so like
so
the
is
whole aspect of
Vicodin
like
and OxyContin and Roxycontin and
yeah, all,
Percocet.
all opioids. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of
Yeah.
the aspect, it's like we have these drugs. People take these drugs, but they're not all of a sudden just like dropping dead and all this kind of shit. So in terms of like the actual like how they calculate out your tolerance, all this stuff, like I understand why JS was trying to cling to it, but it's really not an argument.
But if I've been using opiates and I went from Vicodin to oxys to heroin to fentanyl, and then I want to buy some ISO for my own personal use, not for my horse. I don't have a horse. You're saying I
Mhm.
can't buy it for myself to
No, I'm
use.
saying what I'm saying currently in modern day. Then
In your
yeah, like
system.
you could technically buy it and then if you're a zookeeper and then take it.
Would it be legal in your system for me to buy
Mhm.
ISO and use it?
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
regulated, but legal.
Okay. Now, how do you know that the person that comes
Mhm.
in to buy the ISO that you just said a person can come in and get ISO for their own personal use, not for their
Yep.
horse, but for themselves? How
Yep.
do you know that that person has the tolerance to be able to handle that?
The same way we just like Kat just explained, they do conversions for like methadone.
A doctor currently is not going to let you. So the doctor's going to sit down and talk to them and say,
Like,
how long have you been doing it? What's your tolerance?
What you're saying right now, JS, is that it's like medical doctors have no way to calculate tolerance.
Might as well just be illegal, dude. This is logistically. It's crazy.
I love it. Here we got time for one more. On the edge, Marte got in here. Says, do you think drugs like devil's breath, which are used strictly to manipulate people, not to get high, should be legal?
Strictly to manipulate people not
Yeah,
to get high.
Because another aspect of having like regulated and all this kind of stuff is that it's like these purchases are going to come up on these people's credit cards and all this stuff. So when you're investigating someone, you can say, "Oh, this guy bought like all this Rohypnol," and then all of a sudden we had a string of grapes and all this kind of shit. It's a lot easier to point to that than it is to from unknown source. Like it's all black market. You don't know where they're getting it from. You don't know who's buying it. It's a lot safer. Like
Yeah.
that's why like the whole counter argument that JS was saying, it's like it's more safe to have it outlawed rather than actually having a transparent system, having like we're saying, like tolerance is calculated, all this kind of thing, you know.
Is
How
that
about
the like? If I'm not mistaken, like
roofies?
that devil's breath stuff.
Oh.
Is that like that? What they in the movies they call it the truth serums? You know what I'm saying? Is that what that is?
Yeah, something along the lines. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was like some sort of powder, whatever you could mix in someone's drink, and like it'd be kind of like a truth serum, where you could basically become very
No, true serum is a different drug.
Suggestible.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what
I don't know.
devil's breath is.
Devil's Breath, I don't remember, but I remember hearing the name one time, but I just don't remember exactly what it is or what it does or any of that.
But what he said about the roofies, how about instead of retroactively waiting until the serial grapist buys a bunch of Rohypnol and goes on a graping mission, why don't we just not sell roofies to people?
Like we technically already do.
No, the black market does. So then what we do is we look for the people who
Yeah.
are selling it on the black market and we get them before the guy has a chance to go
Bro,
around and grape
What do you mean
everybody.
we just look up the black market? We just go blackmarket.com and then we just like look through the registry? Is that how you think it works?
I mean, we have done that. We shut down Silk Road.
Yep. And then again, you shut that down, and then another one pops up that you don't know about. So it just basically continues same business as usual.
Yeah,
I have to read this one just because it's funny. Ban it all, ban gooning too, he says. That's a good
You're
one.
not allowed. You're not allowed your cup of coffee anymore. You're not allowed your sugary drink. You're not even allowed your Big Mac anymore.
You can't even touch your penis while you're peeing anymore. All right, don't even do that.
You gotta go Bluetooth, hands free, boys.
I guess we can get with this last minute because on the edge, Marte did send in one more. Drugs like crocodile.
Crocodile.
Crocodile. You mentioned that earlier. Yeah. In Russia, have zero benefits, automatically rot the skin, and give you automatically leprosy. Should we legalize zero net benefit drugs? So, like, basically, would you say someone should be allowed to recreationally take that as well, Terry? I guess that's what he's asking.
Yeah, so like in terms of the aspect, it's like yes, all of the shit, yes. You know what I mean? But in terms of the aspect of what they're doing that with, so it's like
have you
this whole
ever
thing of like,
seen
this
crocodile?
thing,
what it does
this
to
thing
people?
can like burn off limbs or whatever. It's like we technically already have like you brought up Russia. A typical thing what the Russian mafia does is like for ballerina dance, all the stuff. They'll literally pour acid in their face. They'll just like walk up with a fucking like water toy gun and they basically blast them in the face. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean we should ban acid. Okay, it's the same thing with fire.
Shit. Well, okay, that wraps up our 30-minute Q&A section. Again, thank you to everyone for your questions. We are going to have an open panel very shortly here, so let me drop the link for everybody who wants to come up for open panel. All right, it's a chaos and chill stream, so you can directly confront any of the arguments, bring up any of your own, anything like this. All right. One more time, everyone in the chat, if you want to find the debaters, they are in the description of the live stream and the video when it's up as well. And do any of you have like a final, you know what? I think you should both just give like a final, like, tell everyone where they can find you before I play the outro, give people time to come up and we get into open panel. Tell everyone where we can find you.
You can go first, Terry.
Yeah, so again, your friendly neighborhood leprechaun. You can find me over the rainbow on YouTube, X, all the social medias. And again, if you like listening to an aspiring professional meme store, or you just want to help me become fully professional, the like Ease was saying, the link is pinned below.
I'm JS Urban Adventures. Been doing YouTube for a while. My channel's got all sorts of stuff on it because it's always changing. It's like a variety channel, but for a while I've just been doing streams, debating stuff, primarily theology and then politics and philosophy. I do a show on Monday night every week for 4 years. Only missed one show in 4 years, called The Dreaded Conservative Show, where we do like news and current events. It's a news show. And then Friday and Saturday nights, I do long streams where we do panels and madness ensues. Sub to both of them. Yeah.
That's right. As Matthew says, sub to both of them. They're both top tier. Facts. Again, thank you to you both. All right. We're going to get into the open panel after the outro. It's obviously optional. I know JS, you're limited on time for this part.
I got about an hour, so I'll hang
Yeah,
out.
so you still have some time for anybody that wants to come confront you. So chatters, anybody, other streamers, anyone else who wants to get up here, I'm gonna play the outro, and then we will have the open panel. I'll have everyone on the panel by the time the outro is done. Again, thank you to all of you for joining in for Swords of Reason. Okay, I think the first episode went fucking awesome. This debate was great. All right, both came in strong, especially the openings. Shout out to JS for drinking a fucking egg during his opening. All right, and being able to do the rest of his opening without fucking flinching, that was great. All right, that was fucking great. I loved
Like
it.
Rocky, baby.
Yeah, bro, that was great. I was like, that's clean. That's clean. All right, like I said, get up here. The link is pinned. Oh, before we do that, sorry, I almost forgot. We had the poll. Let me end the poll. All right, there was 37 votes I seen on there, and 59% were leaning towards JS on the based on arguments, delivery, competence, and logic for this one. All right, so it's 59-41 split. All right, I think both did fucking great. And yeah, here's goes the outro. And yeah, get up here if you want to argue, all right, or if you just want to chill.
Step into the circle where the echoes collide. Truth through the static, no place to hide. Iron tongue, sharpen fire in our breath. We dance with conviction on the edge of death. Your words are bullets, mine are storms. Ideas forged where lightning forms. No retreat, no treason. We clash our swords of reason.